you haven't even we haven't even gotten to the worst and cringiest line. You know, excellence with couples who are coupling.
Yeah. And they gave her a special drink, a specialty.
What I'll say now is he's like, you were that desperate, you were that horny, you just jump any random guy. She's like, I'm not horny. And he says, I can feel it, you little slut. And one day you're gonna get fucked by me.
What?
And that's it.
The fuck?
And she's like, oh my god.
You should use this as the intro to the episode. Quack.
Welcome to the Little Duck Book Club with duck number 1,
Ren, and duck number 2,
Anna. And today we're going to have a little bit of a different episode because this time only one of us read the book that we're going to talk about. So last year we read Lightlark when it came out, and we had a lot of fun kind of dissecting it. And when we stopped reading the book, I said, oh, by the way, there's a second one coming out next year already. And you were like, what? Oh, no.
Yeah, I was like, no way I am reading this. This was not funny or good enough to be worth it.
And at the same time that you were like, oh my god, no, I'm never going to read it, I was like,
I kind of want to read it.
I kind of want to read it. So Nightbane came out, I think like 3 weeks ago. I think it was the 7th of November. Done reading with it. And I decided to make a little presentation. So that being said, is there anything else you want to say before we get into it?
I have no idea what happens. So, like, straight up, I don't know what happens. I have heard nothing. I have not looked at, like, spoilery videos reviewing it. I am going into this blind. You didn't really send me anything either.
Nah, I kept you in the dark.
This is like, I am so excited to learn about Lightlark 2, too light to lark. So...
Well, this is too night to bane, to be honest.
The bane of your nightmares, yeah. Okay, let's get into it. I am excited. So
I need to set the scene a little bit, right? It's the end of Lightlark. We know that the Wild Isle, like the island that the wildlings used to live at, Preclaimer, you have to know what happens in Lightlark if you want to watch this video, because we don't have enough time for me to explain everything. We know that on the Wild Isle there's this palace, this old house where Isla sometimes lived in, because Grimm can't just use his powers there. And inside there's a vault. And during the book, you always think, oh, the star stick's gonna open the vault, until she finally finds out, oh no, her crown can open the vault.
It's the key, yeah.
Is the key.
It was so stupid.
I still don't understand how that works, physically, but still, it's a fantasy book. And
mechanics don't apply.
And we start, let me click into the window. We start at the first chapter called Vault.
Damn.
So we have our protagonist, Isla.
Oh
okay,
God.
Listen, you cannot judge. I drew all of this.
Great. This is so good.
I drew all of this with my mouse, okay?
Dude, the art quality is probably higher than the writing quality, so I am pumped. I love this. This is the Nightbane experience to me. It's
like, do I have a Wacom Cintiq at home? And I still drew this with a mouse? Yes, I did. Okay, so we have Isla. She's standing in front of the vault, and she tries to open it. She tries to put her force and her crown into it, but it just doesn't work. There's it blows open, and there's power that sends her away and across the room, and she's super sad about it. And while she's staring at the vault, she's like, why doesn't it open? Boom. Oh wait, there it is. Mr. Grimshaw appears behind her, and she totally freaks out, but when she looks at him, he's gone. That's the first introduction to the book. We're starting fast. We're setting up the main problem. She can't get into the vault. It's apparently very important that she gets in there, and she has hallucinations about Grimm. And I'm gonna call him Grimm from now because Grimshaw is a fucking stupid name. And while I was reading the book, I was constantly, because there was a couple of scenes which we're going to get to later that reminded me of another fantasy book, I was constantly calling him Grimsend in my mind. So when I wrote this,
so funny.
I nearly wrote, I had to Google his name again because I forgot. But that's the first chapter in itself, right? There's a huge problem. You're like, okay, that's,
she starts out, like, the last book ends with, like, and she opens the vault, and then she's writing the second one and is immediately like, you know what? We don't need to open this vault. We can string people along longer. I don't know what's in there. I need time to think. Let's do something else.
And at least for me, as a reader, I thought, okay, this was going to be the main, like, one of the main problems to, like, you know, get into that fucking vault. So in the next, oh, she's surprised, by the way. In the next chapter, Truths and Lies, Isla wakes up in her bed. Oro, this is Oro, okay? Oro is like right next to the bed, and she is distraught by this hallucination of Grimm, but she doesn't tell Oro. She like wants to keep it secret because she's like, oh, you know, what might he think? And he, you know, he's a logical guy. He sits down and is like, Isla, you need to train, all right? We know you have wildling powers. We know you have nightshade powers. Now you also have the starling powers. Before something happens, you need to be able to control them. But she doesn't want to do that. So she tries to seduce her. She tries to go, oh, come on, let's have a little tango. And he acts like a good boy would act by walking away. He's like, no, this is not happening.
I love this.
So Isla is basically horny and sad at the same time. And she's horny and sad for a lot of time in this book. It's fucking ridiculous. As you will notice in a couple of slides going forward, the scenes are very sporadic, which is why we go from this scene to a floating feast, which is a little dinner party that they're having. It's supposed to be a political thing, and like the food is kind of like each of the isles, the tribes, they have their own course in it. And I kid you not, the food is literally floating, which is why it's called a floating feast.
That's so stupid.
It is super stupid. And there's like lots of political people there, and Oro and Isla are like at the top, sitting on their little special seats. And Alex Aster is not good at describing stuff. She has a little bit of a struggle. Like a lot of her writings reads like it's a rough draft, and she just never decided to put more effort into it. Here she did. She tried to describe the people. One of them looks like the top part of a question mark, and the other one looks like a tombstone, which she probably meant he's very sturdy and broad. I don't know, but I decided to incorporate this into the design.
I love this.
And there's
Canon.
And there's two new characters that we get introduced to, Maren and Soren. Now, Maren is like, they're both like emissaries. Maren for the Starlings and Soren for the Moonlings. Maren is here to be like, hey, you know, a ruler got kind of killed last time during the Centennial, and we don't really have a ruler now. It would be really nice if the person responsible for it, you know, actually do their job and rule our island. As to which Isla says, you know what, yeah, I'm gonna be Starling Queen. I don't know how to rule my own kingdom, but I'm just gonna take the second one under my wing. And Soren, the Moonling guy, he's like, well, we Moonlings kind of don't want to associate with you anymore. So it's gonna get a bit icy. See what I did there? Icy between us. And they do this by, I said every like course belongs to one of the factions. The Moonling course is literally blocks of ice with fish in them.
This is cartoon shit. That is cartoon shit. Are they also stacking the blocks of ice into an igloo? What is happening? What?
No, Oro takes like pity on the fish and he melts the ice and then the fish like gather in a bowl in the on the table. I thought
The fish were alive?
I guess they were. I don't know, maybe the Soren guy, like right outside of the room, he was just like freezing them before they went onto the dinner table, so they would be super fresh. But yeah, it's really ridiculous. And they leave this dinner party with a very like strained relationship. And Isla is even more worried now because she has to be ruler of a second country that she doesn't even like know how to deal with.
Yeah.
And then we go to the next chapter that's just randomly stacked after this one. It's called Choices. You think, oh, what choices are going to be made in here? And actually, it's a little tea party between Isla and Azul. Azul being the ruler of the Skylings, if you remember correctly. And they're talking.
Sad gay man.
Sad gay man, exactly. Which makes it even funnier, considering what he's telling her in this conversation. So Azul's like, hey, how do you feel being a ruler of two countries now? And she's like, well, it sucks because I'm egoistical. Like, I don't want to do all of these things that I have to do to be a good ruler. And he's like, that's understandable. I mean, have you ever even talked to any of them? Like, do you know them? Do you have an emotional connection to them? And she's like, well, no, I don't. And he's like, I guess that's the reason then. You have to be more involved with your subjects, and then it's getting easier to kind of give up that part of yourself and become the ruler and like do the things you have to do. And he says, come on, gather around here. We're gonna go to the Sky Isle, and I'll show you what it means to be a ruler. So off they go to the Sky Isle. They fly up there. Azul like helps her fly, and since now the powers are back for the Skylings, they can fly around their home as well. They're like zooming around everywhere, and because they can fly, Skylings don't need stairs and Skylings don't need roofs. I haven't gotten the roof part. I don't understand it like the stairs. I can somehow relate to the roof. I cannot. Clouds do still exist and it does still rain.
Yeah, what? Like,
but
hello?
But
also,
that's
like, no shade, but even if you're in the air, birds will shit into your house, right? Like, if they fly over.
Honestly, I don't, since she's so sparse with her descriptions, I don't really know how high the city is. Lightlark itself is supposed to be a floating city, if you think about it, if you remember, like, from the first book. But Lightlark has cliffs, it has a beach, if I remember correctly, like at some point during the first book.
It's like a magical island.
At some point during the first book, I think, Grimm like teleports her to a rocky beach from the cliff down. So there has to be some sort of thing happening, and also the waves kind of crash against the cliff, so it can't be floating that much. But yeah, they're up there. And they sit down, they have a tea in a different room now, and they're talking again, and Azul is like, and this is where it's getting hilarious, he's like, well, you do also realize that you have to get a baby soon, right? And she's like, why do I have to get a baby? And he's like, well, you know, the power has to continue, and if there's no ruler, then the people die. So, you need to have a baby, so that at some point, your people don't die. You know, the curses were lifted, but that doesn't mean that they're still not dependent on you. And she goes, shit, man. Like, I have one kingdom, I have two kingdoms, and now I need to get a baby. This is too much for me. I cannot deal with this. And
this is like the count. One kingdom, two
kingdoms.
Three.
It gets even funnier considering Azul says that he is, like, gay, and not bi or anything, just gay.
Yeah.
And I mean, the Skylings do have a democracy, but if he dies, it still means that there's not gonna be
still a magical land.
Yeah. Like, maybe, I don't know, maybe he was like winking at Isla, like, we can make one together.
Also, like, obviously the rulers, like, if I remember correctly, like, the power doesn't just go like to direct relatives, but it also like can jump to like your sibling or whoever like of your family line is still alive.
Yeah.
So like Are we sure there are no other, like, wildlings who are related to Isla? Like, I feel it's difficult for me to believe that in the past of her family, like, there weren't, like, other children who didn't become rulers and then just had normal family, like, right? Like, that does feel strange.
The question probably is how much, like, how high up does the transfer of power go? Because, I mean, her mother isn't alive anymore. She was an only child, and they don't really say whether her mother was or was not, but since there's no aunt or uncle that kind of took responsibility for Isla, I would guess no, that she also was an only child. So it would need to be the grandmother, who is questionably not even alive anymore. So it might be that Isla is the only one still alive, or would it, like, go up the family tree to a point where it diverges to go down again and find a random living wildling relative that's still there?
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, I am, of course, not Alex Aster, but also I feel like she probably hasn't thought about it either. But if I had written it, I would have assumed that, like, it's about something in the blood, which, like, all the descendants of whoever bound their magic to the land or whatever, you know, or who came from the land, whatever. Like, so I feel like every relative who's still alive, who has some of that blood in them, counts. So I would assume that, like, how distantly related they are doesn't matter, but also, like, obviously, it's her book, and whatever she wants to be important is important. But also,
I mean, we need to remember this is a romantasy book, and it's, like, it is more romance than fantasy, and above all...
Is it romance, though? What's the romance like?
We're gonna get to that, unfortunately. But above all that, there's, like, an overarching lack of an writing arc. So I guess she doesn't even know herself. I guess it would be something that you'd ask her and she would go full on, oh, that's a good question, thank you for asking me.
Like, and then she's gonna include it in Lightlark 15.
Oh god. Too light to lark. And that's this chapter. It's just them chatting, flying to the Sky Isle for you to see that...
I thought he was supposed to show her how to be a ruler, not just hang out with her.
No, he hangs out with her, he insults her, he kind of picks her up again by going, hey, it's okay that you don't know this, and then he tells her, by the way, you have to get prego soon. That's what Azul's, like, on point. Azul, honestly, he's one of the most and least helpful characters in this whole book, and you're gonna get to why later on. Like, he's a king in all possible meanings of the word.
He was like, what do heterosexual people do? Ah, yes, procreate.
He's like,
Isla, go have kids.
He's like looking at him, giving him a big side eye. But we also get to the next chapter, the coronation, because obviously, since she wants to be Queen of Starling, she needs to become a queen. Well, before she goes to the Star Isle to talk to her new subjects, she goes to the Wild Isle, to the Wildling Newlands to be exact, not to the isle itself, to talk to her subjects there, because obviously they've never seen her. She was in this glass building, right? Only on a couple of occasions she had, like, a little bit of a waving thing going on. She talks to them, and we meet a new character called Ren, who's kind of like the leader of the Wildling Newlands. And this is where I have to have a little naming intermission. This I already told you, because I was laughing my ass off. New character is called So Ren. Next one is called Me Ren. And the next one is called just Ren. And I wondered if this was going to continue throughout the book for naming conventions, but no, it's just these three characters that get introduced in a very quick succession, which is why it's so noticeable. But the rest of the characters that are new don't really adhere to the system. But I thought it was a fun little tidbit to sprinkle in. Back to Ren and Isla. Ren is like, listen, yes, we are having a horrible time right now. The crops are still not growing properly. We're still, like, emaciated because we had to eat hearts, and, like, at some point there weren't any hearts to eat anymore. We're struggling, but we can still, like, we still have a system. We've been doing this for a while now. Go to the starlings, help them. We're doing this. We're okay. So Isla disappears and she goes to the starlings. Or not. We never get told where she goes until a couple of pages later, where we find out that she's actually on Lightlark, because this is happening in front of the castle. So there's the starlings, right? There's Isla. She's on top on a couple of stairs. There's Oro at the bottom of the stairs, and he has like a crown. And she goes, all right, I'm going to become queen. And she goes tippy-tappy-toop down the stairs, and he puts the crown onto her head. Now, boom! The ground breaks open. There's a big chasm. People fall into it. They're starting to scream. This was actually not described badly. I was like, oh my god, what is happening? Like, I was engaged, okay, when this happened. Like, ground breaks open. People are screaming. Isla's confused. Oro is being hurt because everything that happens to the island also hurts Oro. So he's like, what happened? Like, he's this meme of this old guy who gets a heart attack. He's like, And
call an ambulance, but not for me.
He's 500 years old, so probably that's not... he should be accustomed to that. And out of this chasm come these flying monsters. Now, in hindsight, I realized that this looks like this one Pokemon. It's like the violet purple one, but there's like black creatures come out. They look like flying little goblin thingies, I don't know, and they start eating people, ripping them apart. There's blood everywhere. They're either gripping them and just letting them fall, or just really like, tearing them apart. Oro tries to fight against them, like with his fire powers, but he's hurt, and there's simply too many of these monsters. So they're flying across the people, and then they fly up to Isla, stop, and then they fly away. Oh no, there was Isla flying away. Then they fly away. And now the starlings and the sunlings and everybody who's still surviving goes, traitor! You've been working with the evil guy all along, because they're flying back to Nightshade. Right? And Isla can't take it. She's having a panic attack. And then she faints. That's why I had that animation in there.
I love that this book, which does not contain a deadly tournament, actually has people dying. Like, there's more violence here than in the entire first book.
There is. I felt like in a way this book was a little bit more grown up, because she had already spent one book in the world of Lightlark, and now she had the opportunity to spend another year there, or like another book. It's still... we can get to this like at the end, but I at some parts genuinely enjoyed this. Like, my trash heart was blooming. Is it good?
Nice.
No, but I actually didn't mind, which is why I had so much fun making this presentation.
No, I am glad you enjoyed it. I know I wouldn't, so I didn't read it, but I'm glad you had fun, and I'm enjoying hearing about it, but I wouldn't want to read it.
All right, the next chapter, I don't really remember much of it. It's called Insignia. For some reason, they meet up with Cleo, who, if you remember, is the Moonling leader, ruler, whatever. And she tells them that the Moonlings are planning on leaving Lightlark. And Isla goes, no, you can't. By the way, I know that there's different like pronunciations for her, Isla, but I don't know. Alex Aster always says she's Latina, and Isla kind of is the Spanish pronunciation of the name. So
also, let's be real, like, we're not native English speakers.
That's true.
In German, the immediate read on it is Isla as well, so that's also how my brain processes the name, so it's like I respect you. I will defend you.
Also, I'm like, it sounds so Spanish. Yeah, so we're just gonna go with Isla. And she goes, you can't leave. like, we've just got attacked by these monsters. You have the healers, right? Because the moonlings have the healers. Which is weird because the wildlings are also the healers. But apparently the moonlings are the healers.
The moonlings are the healers because waterbenders are healers in Avatar.
Oh my god. That's probably it, though.
Yeah, no, I do think that's it, yeah.
And Cleo goes, oh, well, we're still undecided. And then somewhere in this chapter, I forgot to... so I made voice notes after every single chapter that I read, and I forgot to tell myself in these voice notes when we find out, but we find out that the monsters are called Dreks. Dreks.
Dreks.
So now...
This is like
yeah.
a new... This sounds like a new, like... company for, like, I don't know, sneakers? These are my cool Dreks. Look at that.
Which is funny because I have shoes that are called Brooks, so it's
Drix.
every time I'm gonna wear them now, I'm gonna think about them.
Drix also sounds like one of those like boys' names from one of those Utah moms who's desperate to give her son a unique name.
Or you put an X in there instead of the KS. It's like a Winx Club evolution.
Drix.
Ba, 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 ba.
Okay, but Drix could also be like, like you have Lego, you have Duplo, you have Drix.
Lego Drix. But yeah, that was this chapter. I don't remember much of it, but a lot of the chapters were very short. And then you had a couple of chapters, which we're going to notice later, that were very repetitive. And just a weird assortment of scenes where you notice that she had some chapters that were very planned out and she had like a very clear vision for it, and then others where she was like, shit, I need to put all of these plot points and this information somehow into the story. So yeah, she leaves and we start our next chapter, which is called Rising Up. So Isla's just, standing on her balcony. She's loving her life. She's living it. Actually, she's hating her life, right? She's super miserable. And she gets abducted by a huge wave that, like, smashes into the balcony and just wraps her up and drags her down underwater. And there's, like, some water magic going on. And then she wakes up in a cave. Obviously sad. And in this cave there's a group of like masked people, of rebels, that are like trying to like kind of like to try to put what's it called, bindings on her, like they want to make her a prisoner. Okay, the kidnappers are kidnapping. She panics, right? And in her emotions she kind of floops away to the other side of the cave, and then she just yeets them. She yeets them out of the cave and like kills them in the process.
Oh, damn, nice.
Oro comes to kind of like save her, get her out of there, and he tells her, girlie, we have to start training, like this is important as fuck, do you not see what can happen? And she goes, you're right. She gets assigned some bodyguards who are twins, Skyling twins, Ciel and Avel, weird naming.
Sky? Really?
It's a guy and a girl. It's like two twins.
Hey, dude, what should we call somebody from the people who can fly and live in the air? Sky, maybe?
No. The name is Ciel, like Ciel.
Oh yeah, but Ciel is just sky in French, which is why I was like sky. Yeah, it's just sky in French. We're just like, okay, that's like.
I didn't know that. Not me trying to defend Alex Aster.
No, I forgot what you said. In my brain was just like sky, really. Because I was immediately thinking of Winx Club, and I was like, oh, sky, really? But like, yeah, Ciel just means sky. So
man.
Cool.
And they start training. We get to chapter Unleashed, which where she meets with Remlar. I have no recollection of what this guy looks like. In my head, I don't know why. he looks like from Arthur and the Minimoys, like one of the characters there, like a guy with wings. Or was it a different animation movie? I don't know. There's like a guy with wings. He is from the first book. He's one of the creature humanoid insect people that lives in like the hive that she goes to find the egg, the heart of Lightlark. And apparently in that book he says she's gonna come back one day. And then he's acting all smug because she actually is coming back. Because he can teach her powers. I don't get why he has to be her teacher. But anyway, the chapter is a big training montage. Like, they're just doing stuff. She has to train. It's yeah.
Why is she training with a stranger instead of, like, people who have the powers she's trying to learn to use?
Honestly,
Question mark?
I have no idea.
Okay, fair.
Like, there are some scenes later on, and like I think in this training montage as well, where Oro's trying to teach her the flames and through their love connection, like stuff. But she's not good at it and in the beginning, but she's getting there. Like, we're finally making progress. Isla's becoming her own person. And it's like, great, finally. Now, during this training thingy, I clicked too soon. During this training thingy, she also starts to access her nightshade powers, and this is the first time that Isla starts to get one of her memory flashes. And now, sandwiched in between chapters, we have chapters that are called the before. There's no numbering of these chapters, or they don't have any, like, their own names. It's always before. So if you look at the itinerary, it's like chapter name, before, chapter, before. So this is our first before, and this is flashback time. And we're flashing back to the time that Isla is still a tiny little Isla before the centennial. So she's like 18 or something. And I forgot why this godforsaken child does this, but she portals to the Nightshade Palace. And she walks around there. She's like, la 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 la, you know, boop 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 boop. And she hears voices coming from another hallway, and she's like, oh my god, shit. There's people coming. I obviously do not look like a nightshade, like I have my pretty little dress on. So she, like, before she can do anything, she gets grabbed by a woman who's like, you're late. You know, the typical, you're late. She drags her into a room, dresses her up, and then she lines up with a lot of other young women. And some of them are like, oh my god, I'm so excited. I hope he chooses me. And then, like, in some weird harem anime show shit, Grimm comes in, and he, like, looks at each of the women, and he's like, oh yeah. And he chooses Isla, of course. And he's like, I want that one. So he's like, beep, beep, beep. He takes her, and takes her to a room. So other ones are gone. It's just them. And she, instead of doing something, anything, she's kind of overtaken by how tall and handsome and dark he is. And then they, like, make out. You know, she's like there. She's like going with it, and then at some point she decides, you know what, I'm in danger. So she just stabs him, and then she uses her star stick to portal away, and that's the scene that's the memory she gets back after training for the first time.
This is so weird. I mean, I don't remember if Lightlark had, like, any more specifics. But the impression I got was that they ran into each other in the Nightshade Castle, not that she was lined up as, like, a one-night stand for him. Why are they lining up girls from, if he's hot, then, like, can't he get laid? What?
Well, he did kind of run into her, you know, in one way or another, but we'll get to that later, actually. I don't want to spoil you now. I don't want to spoil you now, but we will actually get to that question later on.
Grimm is becoming even creepier, which I didn't know was possible.
We're continuing with the next chapter, which is called Favorite. And because of, all the stress that they have, Isla decides to pick Oro up, and they go to the Wild Isle. Because on the Wild Isle, again, you can only use the wildling powers, and this way she can at least not hurt anybody with her nightshade powers, because she can't control them. She's hating on herself, she thinks that she's the worst human possible, and Oro's like, no, you're not. I love you. You're my favorite. And that's where the title of the chapter comes from. It's a cute scene, but it shows us even more how Oro is not the, guy that we learned from the first book, who's just, super nonchalant, and I'm a king, I have other things to do, and I happen to, unfortunately, have fallen in love with you. But he's a total white knight simping guy.
Dude,
in this one.
Can you imagine being 500 years old and then Isla's your favorite?
He tells her this,
yeah. You've met. Ooh, that's embarrassing.
He tells her, he's like, for 500 years I've been closing off my heart. I haven't let anybody get close to me at all, and then you came along and you coaxed me out of my shell, and now I'm here and you're the one I love. He literally tells her this multiple times throughout the books. They
had zero chemistry while the supposed coaxing was happening.
They
were just sassily talking to each other while walking through the wilderness looking for the heart of Lightlark.
They had zero chemistry.
Was not there.
And the zero chemistry, at least from Oro's side, kind of continues on. And in the beginning I thought, well, maybe it's the situation similar to us as a reader being kind of surprised by that love connection, because Oro was obviously surprised in the previous book when he could use her powers and she could use his. So I thought it was going to be this kind of situation, the kind of dancing around each other and not really knowing what to do with this. But it's not. Oro just is straight up cock blocking her in the beginning of the book, and she's just horny and sad. So this chapter was a bit of a, okay, we're finally getting into something at least. But yeah, absolutely mind-blowing.
There's no way he's the endgame love interest. Grimm is so obviously the favorite. It's they're both bad options. He's boring as shit, and they have no chemistry. And Grimm is uncomfortably close to a rapist. Straight up. What the fuck?
Well, aren't you in for a surprise? Okay.
Oh God.
So we're going to the next chapter, which is a before chapter again.
Yeah.
So remember, the last thing that Isla did was stab him. So
which
now
she deserves.
Oh, this was
his eyebrows.
Why? Oh no, this is the reverse order. Okay, wait. So he actually portals there. I don't know what happened here. So he's there. He portals into her room, right? And he's like, what the fuck you doing? How do you have the star stick? Blah, 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 blah. Well, he doesn't even call it star stick. He says, why do you have the portaling device? And she goes, you mean my star stick?
The portaling device.
And he goes, the fuck you mean the star stick? He tries to take a star stick away. She's like, no! And then he portals out of there. He leaves. And his eyebrows are still there. And that's it. That's the chapter.
I'm obsessed with the fact that Alex Aster thought we would need these chapters. We already know from the explanation what must have happened between them, I mean, so far it doesn't feel like they're adding anything but like, ooh, spicy scenes with Grimm, even though she's currently mad at him, so we need to set them in the past.
Yeah, so right now he calls her Heart Eater, like a snazzy nickname that she obviously doesn't like. And she calls him Demon. Arr. Well, we're back in the present time again with the next chapter called Key Clicking into a Lock. And it's just, again, Oro and Isla training. And we actually have a sad backstory time because she's like, you have no business telling me that I suck at this because you've been like the golden child since forever. And he was like, actually no, if you remember correctly, that was my brother. I was the problem child. And there's like the tragic backstory on how when his powers first flourished, first came up, he accidentally turned a friend of his into solid gold. And she's like, oh no, that's horrible, that's so sad. And he's like, well, it happens. And then they continue training. That's the chapter. There's a chapter called Enya, and it is
like the musician.
Yeah, and it is purely for introducing a person to us, Enya. She's a friend of Oro, and it painfully makes us aware of the fact that even though Isla and Oro are supposed to be like a couple, friends, lovers, Isla doesn't know anything about his life or his friends. For example, his inner circle, like Recent has his buddies, Oro has his buddies. And the one that I think they're closest to each other is this Enya person. I didn't realize in the beginning, but throughout later chapters for her descriptions, she seems to be a ginger, but I could not be arsed to draw a full-grown character. So she meets Enya, she's a sunling, she's snarky, she's like a baddie, and that's it. Oh, they go and help the wildlings do stuff. I don't remember. But it's just them vibing and establishing her as a character. They're friends. Okay. The next chapter is called Poison. And Isla still struggles with her powers. She's still sad, right? She starts to master them to a bit. The wildling powers come very easily to her, and the nightshade powers are still a huge problem, but the wildling powers are amazing. She's I think running through the forest, and she goes higher and higher, and the vines are carrying her, and then she goes wee because she nearly falls to her death by seeing again a hallucination of Grimm pop up, and that makes her stop her powers, and then she just falls nearly to her death. Now you might be thinking, oh, now we're getting a before chapter again, right? Because she sees Grimm. No.
No.
Yeah, I actually animated this. She sees Grimm, and then she falls.
That's amazing.
To be fair, this slide deck is 180 slides, so I was bound to forget. I did some stuff at some point. But we don't get a before chapter. We get a chapter called Links. And this
Kitty cat
was honestly Kitty Cat. This was honestly, yes. I thought it was going to be a fun chapter, right? And it was to a certain extent until I realized how stupid it is. So Isla goes to the wildling Newlands again, and she's talking to Ren, and they're talking about Isla's past, and Ren going, we barely saw you, and one thing we were also confused by was that you didn't have a bonded. And Isla goes, a bonded? And Ren goes, yeah, we all have animal bonded to us. She's like, oh, so an animal companion. Ren goes, no, a bonded. And then, you start to realize that all the wildlings have animals that walk around with them. And this never came to mind to Isla, how this is something that is new.
Isla's animal companion is Oro.
I mean, he's her bitch, so that kind of goes into line. And she's like, you know what? I know my wildling powers now. I can use them. I want to bond it too. And Ren is like, this is honestly perfect. You're our ruler. You need a bonded. We're gonna do this tonight. And Isla goes, great. She has no idea how this whole thing actually works, but she's there. She's going for it. So, oh yeah, that's the concept. So they're going to a swamp. And there's like this huge procession going on. Isla has flowers in her hair, like all over her arms. They like used pigments to draw it down. It's a very, you notice that Alex Aster like really had an image in her mind, and for once she was writing down what was happening. This is one of the chapters that she, I think, genuinely planned to happen for a while, and she wanted to have it in the book. And there's like the procession through the swamp until they kind of stop, and Isla turns around. She's like, why are we stopping? And Ren goes, you now have to continue going on your own. This is an area that we don't really go to because there's like large creatures, evil, like big monsters. And one of them is going to be your bonded. And she goes, okay. And then they give her an arrow and a bow. One arrow and a bow. And she goes, the fuck am I to do with this? And Ren says, oh, you have to hunt your bonded. And Isla goes away. The bonded is supposed to choose me. And now you're telling me that I have to hunt them? And the idea is the bonded chooses Isla by allowing her to hurt them.
Oh, I don't like that.
Basically. So they're like, all right, have fun. And they leave. And now Isla is all alone in the forest with her one arrow and her bow. And she's like, okay, I have no idea how this works. She's like not panicking yet, but she's like very apprehensive of it. And the first animal she sees is a wolf. And she goes, is this gonna be my bonded? But before she can like even get the arrow and the bow and like draw the arrow, the wolf was already gone. So she's like, okay, obviously the wolf wasn't my bonded. She starts to like kind of climb up into the trees to get a better vantage point, and I thought that was pretty cool. Underneath her walks along a gigantic spider with like the legs big as trees, but because the spider isn't even like regarding her or like acknowledging her presence, she guesses, well, the spider is also not my bonded, obviously. Then we get to a stag, and the stag actually has branches on its head, and it seems like the stag is like, oh, hi. And she's
girl.
Like, oh my god. You know, she like gets out her arrow, she gets out the bow, and she like wants to shoot the stag, but then the stag like looks behind her and like completely panics and runs away, and she turns around, there's a bear. Like a big bear, and she's like, holy fuck, I guess this is it. You know, she again takes her arrow, shoots it, and the bear just goes it just like slaps the arrow away. Arrow breaks. She's like, great, all I have is a dumb bow. And she guesses this is not my bonded because that he would have let me hurt it, right? So she tries to run away, and she thinks, oh well, you know, if I climb up this tree, the branches will be too small to support this bear. They're not. The bear just climbs after her and hurts her. And she, in the last moment, can use her wildling powers to make the branches break. And she just hears the bear like falling through all of the different levels of the tree and the branches, and just like landing at the bottom of the tree.
Is Alex Aster aware how bears climb trees? Question mark.
You know, reading it, it was like, she's not gonna say that the bear will not be able to climb after her, but then it said, you know, she thinks the bear will be too heavy to like, I don't know. I mean, bears grab the middle of the tree, right?
Yeah, they're on like the stem or whatever. They're like on the tree trunk. They don't. Yeah, they're not apes. They do not grab the branches. They have claws, and they claw into... I am losing it. I love this idea. The bear's too fat. The bear's too fat. Oh no, he's not too fat. I underestimated him. He's like 100% muscle. He's too strong.
But I'm just gonna make the branches
go to the shadow realm. Goodbye, bear.
And then while she's on those branches, you know, her leg hurts. She's like, I'm a failure again. Honestly, the girl is just depressed throughout the whole book.
Good.
She looks to the right and she sees a gigantic black leopard, you know, like a puma kind of
Dude,
walking
how's
across.
the ecosystem sustaining this many large predators?
It's very large, I guess. It's like the trees are gigantic. And instead of attacking her, it kind of, you know, like leans down to allude to like, come on, climb on my back, little one. We're gonna go for a ride. And she's like, well, this must be my bonnet. So she gets up on the leopard. They have a run through the forest. And so they arrive at the place. The leopard's kind of like, you know, go down. She goes down, and then she's like, what does the leopard want from me? And the leopard's like, are you fucking stupid? Like, with the head, you know, looks at the arrow, and then she's like, oh, right. So she takes the half-broken arrow and, like, just sticks it into the leopard. And the leopard's like, okay, fine, whip on that. Huzzah. She climbs onto the leopard again, and they walk into the village where the other wildlings are, and they go, oh my god, I would have never thought this had happened. And Isla goes, what, you mean me surviving and getting a bond? And they go, no, Lynx was your mother's. And this is the part where I thought, why are we calling the black leopard Lynx?
Yeah, I was also like, wait, I thought the chapter was called Lynx.
I know. I know.
What?
The black leopard is called Lynx. That's all we
Alex
need to know.
Aster, stop it.
This woman seriously has no, like, she should just look at the Wikipedia entry of something at this point. But yeah.
Incredible.
That's Lynx. And that's the end of the chapter. Lynx is not a lynx.
I mean, obviously, like, this isn't a rare concept, like having an animal companion or whatever, but like, this so viscerally reminds me of Three Dark Crowns. It's crazy. Like, I feel
with
like
the bear,
she read
right?
this, yeah, like with the bear and with the whole, oh, you know, you'll get a big, powerful companion if your magic's strong or whatever. It just feels so reminiscent of it. It's weird.
Well, you know what I thought about when I was like writing down everything that happened for the slides, and I wrote down familiar. It's like, it's not a familiar. That's a different book series. Kind of like had to scratch that out. Especially because of the lynx. Because I think, doesn't her mother have a lynx? No, there was a orangutan, right? In Golden Compass.
Also, they're called demons or demons. Yeah, they're demons. Her father, like Azrael, has a snow leopard, which is literally the best companion you could. It's so good. I mean, he sucks, but like a snow leopard too.
I started watching the show, which actually not bad, but I haven't continued watching it. Getting back to this book.
Getting back to something that does suck.
The next chapter is called Reflection, and the most important point to take away from this chapter is that Oro and Lynx are fucking besties. Like, Lynx loves Oro.
That's his cat now.
And Lynx is like totally annoyed by Isla, but like Oro getting belly rubs and stuff. They're besties. They love each other. No, the actual stuff that happens in this chapter is that Isla is being told that the rebels, you know, the ones that have kidnapped her, have been sighted or seen in tunnels that exist all over, rather, underneath Lightlark. And she just never noticed. And her totally not personal slave, Ella, tells her that these tunnels were used by the Starlings to survive. And now you might think, why? I don't get this. Wait. Well, Alex Aster decides to get political. Because the Starlings could never get that old, they were kind of used as like slaves or like, you know, lower working class people by the others. A lot of the maids and workers in the castle are still starlings, and apparently these tunnels were used by the starlings to evade others who would just, like to harm them in some sort of way, and this is why these tunnels even exist.
That's insane.
That's the explanation that Alex Aster has for these tunnels existing.
What the fuck?
Another reason why they would run away into tunnels is because half of the Star Isle is being inhabited by monsters that eat the starlings. So starlings just basically are not having the time of their lives at any point of time in history.
Why are starlings so uniquely cursed? Like, there's no way they would have made it for centuries if, like, they... What?
I know.
What? Alex Aster, why? Question mark.
Isla goes into her room, and there she sees I didn't animate this. And there she sees a reflection of Grimm and starts to freak out again. We have another chapter that is named after a character because Isla finally decides to go to Star Isle. The whole isle is like all of the houses are broken down. You can clearly see that they're not having a good time. And in the old castle, that's where the nobles of Star Isle live, and the peasants live like in adjacent destroyed buildings. And Isla goes and meets Maren and this other character called Cinder. Cinder is a child, Maren's cousin, and it's very clear that she's like kind of a stand-in, like a Rue character from Hunger Games. Like she's supposed to be the bubbly child that you look at and you go, "Ah, cute little girly." After that, she's like, "All right, I finally know the people from the Star Isle." She meets up again with Oro because he confronts her and she says, "You look fucking tired. Like, I can see you're miserable. Please tell me what's going on. I love you. I want to help you." But she doesn't want to tell him, and instead she just wants to riz him up again. Remember, sad and horny? And he just leaves again. He's like, she's not having it.
He's so valid. But also, like, why is she surprised? Why is Star Isle like this? Because in the first book, didn't it say that Isla used to go visit Celeste, who was secretly somebody else, like who was secretly evil, at Star Isle?
Aurora.
Wouldn't she know Star Isle already? Like, wouldn't she?
Honestly, I don't know if like Aurora kind of destroyed something there, or whether it was because she died that like there were buildings destroyed. But yeah, Star Isle is kind of fucked up. On the one half, everything is destroyed, and the other half they don't go to because these monsters live there. But yeah, there's not really a big explanation as to why it looks like this.
Alex Aster just hates starlings specifically, and she was like, "Fuck these guys."
Well, we're going through before chapter again.
I love that immediately after, like, she didn't get laid, they're like, "Hey, here, have something else."
You need to always keep in mind, please, that just like now, back then, if a ruler died, all of the subjects would die as well. So what Isla does in the next chapter is just insane. She feels bad for stabbing Grimm. Right? She's like, I kind of really feel bad. She feels bad for the fight that they had when he wanted to take her a star stick. So she decides to go back to his palace and bring him wildling elixir as like an offering of peace, right? Because she's like, dang, I can't afford for this guy to kill me. Now, instead of just portaling there, putting the elixir on his bed, nightstand, whatever, and going, she just waits for him. She just sits on his bed and waits. No. And when she hears people talking and coming up, she realized that it's not just Grimm, it's also another person. So she runs into his bathroom, because it's in the next room she can see, and she waits until the other person's leaving. And she waits in the bathtub, because it's like a big bathtub. And high on the ceiling, there's the faucet for it. And she's laying in the bathtub. She's like, oh my god, please don't see me, please don't see me, please don't see me. And then Grimm walks in to the bathroom, right? He's like, I'm gonna have a nice and relaxing bath. So she closes her eyes. She's like, oh my god, please don't kill me. He goes, turns on the water, and she starts to scream. And at the first moment, you think she's getting stabbed, but then she realizes it's just the water. But he's standing over there like, the fuck you want from me?
Girl, why didn't she portal away when she was in the bathroom? I don't understand. You could have just come back 10 minutes later.
Conveniently, sometimes her star stick doesn't work in the castle. Super convenient. He's like, the fuck you're doing here? Stop, stalking me. And she's like, I'm feeling like I'm indebted to you. And he's like, well, I don't want to feel like you feel like that. She's like, well, what can I give you? Well, he's like, there's nothing you can really give me of sorts. And she tells him they're gonna go on a duel on the Wildling Isle. So they go on the Wildling Isle and they they fight. She kind of cheats. She tricks him to go into quicksand. But he's like, I just don't want to see you again. And honestly, just don't come near me. And then he just leaves.
The energy here is impeccable. What is happening? Why is it like... Why would you write their relationship like this?
Honestly, I thought, why did she even, pursue him after he let her get away with the star stick?
I also don't understand why she was like, oh, I feel indebted to you. I don't know what to do. Girl, didn't you want to give him an elixir for that? Was that not... Well,
she does give it to him, but yeah, it's insane. Well, after these horrific memories that she has, she again is horny for Oro. She just wants to replace the things popping up in her head. So she dresses up all nice, like in lingerie, and she again is like, Oro, please do something with me. She's like coming onto him, and he goes, I will tell you why I'm not trying to be intimate with you, because you look like shit. Honestly, you look like you're having the worst time of your life, and I don't want to feel like I am taking advantage of you. When I want to be with you, I want to be with you when you're happy and fully aware of what you're doing. And she breaks down. She tells him about the hallucinations, that she can't sleep because he's constantly popping up, and she's having these memories of him popping up as well. And Oro goes, well, apparently it gets better when you're in my vicinity, so from now on you're gonna sleep in my room, so that she doesn't see Grimm anymore. And she goes, finally in your room. And he's like, yep. And then he moves out.
But then he's not in the vicinity anymore.
I guess the smell, the Oro aura is enough. I don't know. From that point, she is thriving. She is having, she's eating, she's getting sleep, the training has get better. They have cute little mini moments where it's like, there's actually starting a little relationship. It still doesn't feel intimately romantic, but it feels two kind of people kind of sticking together and being like, hey, we like each other, and we just have to get through this. So yeah, life is great. It's honestly, it's like, oh my god, Isla's doing stuff.
Not what I expected from Lightlark 2, honestly.
Yeah, right? We get to a next chapter called Wildflower, where Isla again tells Oro that she wants to celebrate something called Copia. The cornucopia from Hunger Games. She wants to celebrate the Copia, which is a harvest festival that they do on the Wild Isle. She's never witnessed it because she obviously was never able to go there. But it's like, you know, thank you for the harvest, like a Thanksgiving sort of thing. And she wants to do that on Lightlark. She's super horny again, but now because she's happy Oro's being the big man and he, you know, they're having a couple of relations, and that's the chapter basically.
Okay, but like, what's it like? Like, is it well written? Is it like later Sarah J. Maas sex scenes? Is it like, what's it like? Is it just Fade to Black? I'd say
it's not a Fade to Black. I think she's thankfully avoiding too many details to a point where I at some point didn't know the logistics. I was like, what exactly is happening? Because it was a typical, his hand went down to her core, you know, like that kind of stuff. But after that, it was kind of abstract, which I can vibe with. I don't need the straight up porn to know where the velvet wrapped steel goes. So it wasn't a bad sex scene, to be honest. I felt when I started reading, I was like, oh, it's gonna get cringy, but she gracefully ejected herself out of that situation. So in just 2 chapters, Isla goes from having the nightmare on Earth to time of her life. Girly is vibing. So we get to the next chapter called Illusion. They're happy. They're having their Copia festival, and Isla is in full control of her wildling powers. She's like letting things grow left and right. She decorated everything. There's flowers, there's trees, and while everybody is there, she makes a gigantic tree like grow out in the middle of the plaza that they're at. It's like there's like filled with abundance, and she holds a little speech, you know, talks about the pitfalls and the challenges she has faced and how happy she is to be where she is at right now. And while they're having such a great time, suddenly she's getting sad because the tree starts to crumble in front of her, and like out of the tree come like these gnarly little branches, and everything is suddenly black. People are screaming. There's like corpses on the ground, like flesh is disintegrating. It's a horrible scene. And up pops Grimm's voice. We don't see him, but he says something along the lines of, Lightlark will be destroyed in 30 days. Get off the dang island, or pledge your allegiance to me or perish. And then she realizes it's all an illusion, you know.
No.
But still, like the message has been transferred. Lightlark will be destroyed in 30 days by Grimm. And everybody is sad again because things were going too well for 2 chapters. And now things have to change. Now, in the next chapter called History, you might go, ooh, nice. We're getting some little context for, you know, for the whole story. But we don't. We actually get Cleo meeting up with Isla. So Isla goes to her balcony and Cleo's already standing there. And then Cleo is talking a little bit about her motivations, her life. Basically, the reason why she didn't attend the 4th centennial, so the one before Isla joined, was because Cleo was actually pregnant and had a child that died due to that curse. So if you remember, the Moonling curse is that the water kind of, I think it was every month.
Every full moon, I think.
Every full moon, right? The water tries to kill them, and it actually did kill her son. Like, toddler-sized.
How dumb was that kid? Like, I'm sorry, but like, why would you let your child near the ocean on murder night? Like,
murder night. They don't really elaborate, but I mean, I could imagine the child just running off and, you know, just not able to find, or the waves getting especially vicious or something. And then, Alex Aster like sprinkles in a little bit of representation because Isla goes, oh, she knew that Cleo had both taken men and women to her bed, but she never knew there was something serious going on. So Cleo is now a bisexual icon in this.
Nice. You have no choice but to stand.
Exactly. Honestly. And she goes, she tells her all of this. And then she goes, by the way, Isla, the oracles have like thawed out of their eyes. Because if you remember in the first book, they had the oracle. And it was like always in the ice, unless the oracle wanted to say something. So they would get out of the ice and they would get back into the ice. And Cleo's like, oracle's out of the ice. You should hurry up and talk to the oracle. Because I kind of like hurt the oracle. And also... I'm gonna change my allegiance to Nightshade, and then she just fucks off.
That's
and he's
so
like,
funny.
And he's just like, you gave me all of this just to run away.
That's so fucking funny, dude.
And that's the end of this chapter. But yeah, the next chapter is prophecy. Oh, I wasn't on the right tab. Isla and Oro. Hey,
I just so good.
I thought hard about how I was gonna visualize this.
Oh
So Isla and Oro go to the Oracle on the Moon Isle. Remember, back in the day in Lightlark 1, it was like super difficult to get onto other people's islands. It was like this big thing, and now they're just waltzing in there. I guess they were invited by Cleo, and the Moonlings are already gone, but still. Originally, it was 3 oracles, but 2 of the 3 oracles already went to the Nightshade, so they already deserted. And the remaining one, again, was hurt by Cleo in a way that it's staying alive just long enough for Isla to talk to it. And basically, the oracle says that the future is unclear. The key is in Isla remembering her past experiences with Grimm in order to win the war. Isla asks, are my visions real? So basically what she saw at the Copia, like the destruction that Grimm will bring, she says, are my visions real? And the oracle goes, well, yes, they are real, which makes Oro and Isla panic because they're like, shit, Grimm is coming to the island to completely destroy everything and to like make our flesh melt off our bones. So it's like there's some urgency to it now.
Yeah.
And the oracle also says, well, at some point you will have to return to me without Oro, and then I'll give you the full truth to the prophecy, but you're not there yet. It will happen in the future, but not now. So instead of Oro just leaving and letting Isla talk to the oracle, the oracle says, no, you haven't unlocked this main quest yet. You have to leave, and we'll talk later. So Isla is now like completely panicked. She's like, oh my fucking god, I have to like do all of these things suddenly. And she goes to Remlar again, and she's like, listen, I also have to master my Nightshade powers to recover my memories. And Remlar kind of teaches her, and due to that, she's able to unlock another memory. So we didn't have a lot of before chapters for a while because she was living her life and being happy, but now we're going back into the memories again. Now,
The war.
because of the war. Because Isla has no sense of self-preservation or like responsibility for her people. She again goes out and like endangers herself. Because if you remember, during this time, Celeste or Aurora, which was her real name, and Isla tried to find this glove made out of human skin from the first book. They needed that glove, I think, to steal an artifact out of Oro's library or something, out of the Sunling realm, and that's why they needed the gloves. And she decides she might get those gloves at something called the Night Market, which is a market, like a notorious black market kind of thing, on the Night Isle. on the Nightshade Newlands, and since the Nightshades are still under the curse and can't go out at night, the night market is now going on during the day, basically. So it's
just a market.
It's a day market, yeah. But she goes there. There's some shenanigans. She's walking across a stall, and there's a woman who's like, "Hey, sweetie, do you want some Nightbane?" And it's like a little flask with like a dark liquid in it. And she's like, "It's gotta like fulfill all of your wishes and make you happy." And Isla's like, "No, thank you. I don't want any."
Something called Nightbane sounds real positive to me.
Yeah. And while she's off in the night market, she actually finds a stall that looks like it could have those gloves. It's like full of skinned animals and like leather and stuff. And while she's looking through the stall, a guy jumps her, the owner of the stall, and he's like, "I'm gonna scalp ya." She manages to get away from the guy, but unfortunately guards see their little interaction. And she's obviously not a nightshade because, again, her clothing kind of betrays her. And also they saw her trying to make a puddle with her star stick, if I remember correctly. They start chasing her. They manage to catch her, and she's being put into prison. In the prison cell, Grimm walks up to her and he's like, "Fucking hell, listen to me. Why are you constantly here?
Leave.
I'm fed up with you." And she goes, "Well," like there's a little bit back and forth, you know, she's like, "You're a demon." He's like, "Well, hot eater. So you can't, you know, like fight me here." And she goes, "All right, I'm trying to find these stupid gloves. That's it." And he's like, "Okay, you know what? I actually need something too, and like this can be a beneficial thing. We work together. And then in the Centennial later on, if you help me, I will also we will have an allegiance." And she's like, "Well, that actually doesn't sound bad." So she goes, "I need the gloves." He goes, "I need to find a sword, and I can't find it by myself." And that's when this memory ends. And now this is where one of these ridiculously repetitive chapters comes along, because in the next chapter, Revelations, a large amount is spent on Isla reiterating what happened to Oro and the inner circle. So we have Enya and then two other friends called Calder and Zed. Calder is a moonling, Zed is a skyling, and they're just blabbing along and like debating what this sword could be, what this mystery weapon is, and it's just useless talk.
Just wait for her to remember. You don't need to theorize. She'll remember eventually.
Yeah. And Isla is like talking about that they need more people on their side, and they're talking about the Vinderland people. Those were the people who in the first book ambush her and Oro when they look for the heart of Lightlark.
Yeah, I remember they like eat hearts for fun.
Yeah, exactly.
They think it's cool or whatever.
And she gets hit in the heart with an arrow, and she doesn't die. And it's right after they find the Yolki thing. It's tragic, but she's like, well, they didn't leave with the Moonlings, so maybe they are resentful towards them, and we can use that to our advantage and get them on our side. They're like, the others are like, sounds like a shit idea. And she goes back to Remlar to train her powers, and he makes her like grow kill a tree, like an ancient tree, and then in her powers she grows like hundreds of new trees. And he says something along the lines of, "Wow, you're death and life together, like life incarnate," or some shit like that. And that kind of makes her again remember something.
Dumb question, but like if I am several centuries old on a war council, whatever, if I'm like, here to discuss strategy, why are we like, hey, what about these guys that can't do magic and that nobody likes because they're cannibals? And not like, hey, Isla, you still have nightshade powers, which means the guy responsible for the destruction is still in love with you. Could you maybe make him not do that? Like, if he's in love with you, there's like prime opportunity for manipulation. Like, why are we not using that? Why are we like, hey, these random guys that try to kill you?
She doesn't have the nightshade powers because of Grimm. I think she has them because she's part nightshade.
Oh, true. I forgot that.
That's the reason why. The thing you mentioned actually comes, like, it gets important later on, like the connection that they have. But if I remember correctly, these powers that she has is because they find out that she is part nightshade
True.
as well.
Yeah, true. I had just assumed that, I mean, he's obviously a love interest.
Yeah.
So I was like, I mean, obviously. But still, I'm like, wasn't he super obsessed with you and, like, real mad that you chose Oro? Like, I feel like you could build a bridge there. Like, you don't even have to be honest. You could just do that to prevent a war or delay it. Like, I don't know why you're not, like, writing a letter at least. I don't know. Like, you could try.
She has this necklace he puts on her that nobody can see in the first game. In the first book. And she contemplates touching it because, like, signaling through the necklace, because in the previous book he says, if you need my help, call for me through this necklace. And multiple times she's like, sometimes out of reflex, which makes her feel bad, sometimes because she genuinely thinks maybe this might solve something, but she often touches it and thinks about contacting him. But she's also scared as fuck of Grimm because of the possessiveness and because of the, like, she's like, this guy is fucking crazy, all because, you know, he likes my booty.
She also is crazy, so I feel like
they deserve each other.
It's like evenly matched. They both have like problems.
So the next before chapters kind of reminded me of a certain fantasy book. I'm not gonna name any names, but our romantasy couple goes on the quest to question and steal something from an old, very powerful creature, and I just go there, and I'm sorry, I confused. They go there, and Grimm goes, we have to find the blacksmith, like talk to the blacksmith who made the sword. And for whatever reason, I can't remember, instead of portaling directly to the blacksmith, he portals them like at the bottom of a cliff and they have to climb it up. And he's, of course, just climbing it. But Isla's like even though she goes through all of this training and stuff, she's there in a dress and like little pantaloons and like little shoes, and like she has no armor or anything. He tells her, well, climb this up and please don't cut your hands. Of course she gets cuts everywhere because it's like it's raining, it's pelting down on her, there's wind, the rocks are wet.
Cliff. Like,
she's climbing up, like they're sharp and everything, and she's just happy she hasn't died after she gets up on that cliff. And he's just waiting there like you know, like totally smug and mean. He's like, can't eat her, you can't even climb a cliff. And then
dude, I'm just thinking, you know what? This explains why she fell in love with Oro. This is the same energy as their quest in Lightlark. Like,
true.
The energy is the same.
She's like, you're emotionally unavailable. Slay. That's what I want to go for. But they're entering this forge, and they constantly hear the clanging of the blacksmith until they don't. And like Grimm turns around, sees her blood, and he's like, you actually got yourself cut? And she's like, what the fuck did you expect?
You didn't know this earlier?
And he's like, well, sucks to be you. And then he portals away. And she just runs through the forest. She runs away. She hears this creature coming after her. She get like arrows flying past. She falls down. She dislocates her shoulder. She like injures her foot. She can't properly walk. She like drags herself out of the forest into it doesn't even say what it is, just through a gate, and there's bones everywhere, and she realized, shit, the gate is also made out of bones. And the monster that she then sees coming through the gate is this like giant of a man. It's like this gigantic person. He has a hammer like 3 times the size of her. And while she's like going backwards, she runs into Grimm, who's like, "Oh, well, Baron, you can't have her yet." Basically, Grimm could have avoided this whole situation by like immediately going, "Hey, buddy, I'm your king, don't do this." Because as soon as the creature, the Baron, the blacksmith, realizes that Grimm is there, he's like, "Oh, Grimm, hi king, slay."
Why are you stealing from him anyway if you can just be like, "Hey, dude, give me that"?
Well, they're not stealing from him yet.
Oh, true.
The next couple of quests are all about stealing and sleuthing, and like reminiscent of the side quests that like Recent has with Feyre.
Yeah, I was about to say the discount Akatar vibes are so much more intense in this one.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
I mean, it was obvious from the beginning that like he's a discount Ryzen, like bargain bin Ryzen. He's like obviously like store. The shadow powers, the behavior, all of it, like the weird over familiarity. But like, especially with like, breaking in somewhere and then running away through the forest. This is like literally just the Weaver scene, but like slightly to the left. And then also, a place like made of bones that's super scary. And it's like, this is just the prison in Akatar. Like, this is just...
I know. I mean, that's why we had our little nondescript fantasy characters going through this challenge here. And that's why I've been calling him Grimsund in my mind. I call them Grimsund and Faisla. That's what
you should call him Rice Shaw.
Rice Shaw.
No, but also, like, especially at the beginning where it's like, now she has, like, all these powers she can't control. It's just Akamath. This is just the beginning of Akamath.
So there's a lot of similarities just in this book. There's another scene later that I felt like was straight taken out of Silver Flames, but we're going to get to that later. But, yeah, basically the... Blacksmith wanted to have Isla because he makes magical weapons out of people's bones and their innards, and he just basically forms people into weapons. And he also made that special sword, but it was stolen years ago. It popped up again on a Skyling market, but it was stolen from that Skyling market again, and the Baron knows that it's back on Nightshade because he felt the sword, but it's gone, like, silent, and he doesn't really know where else it might be, and that's the end of this chapter.
I will also say I am so fascinated by the direction the plot is taking.
Really?
Because like from the implications in Lightlark where Oro was like, we can't kill Grimm, we need him to protect us from, like, a bigger evil. I thought this was going to be about the bigger evil, but I guess the bigger evil is just Grimm's bad mood. So, I mean, I guess. Like...
Oh, my God. I forgot that they needed him to... Well, there's some bigger evil, but...
I was like, is the discount, like, King of Hybern gonna show up?
No, there's no this. Actually, not. There's something else that might count as the bigger evil, but let's just continue.
We'll get there.
One thing that Isla says in this chapter as well is she goes, "Well, why can't you just like connect to the sword, whatever, try to find like that?" And there's the crux basically that Nightshades cannot find the sword because the sword is cursed in a way that as soon as a nightshade uses their powers, like portals there, tries to connect with the sword, then the sword portals away. So that's why he needs
funny.
Isla, and that's why they kind of need to do this old school without powers to find the sword, and that's also why the Baron can't feel it anymore, because it's somewhere on Nightshade.
Dude, the sword is just one of the, like, evasive Pokemon you get, like, legendary that you get per, like, Pokemon gen that, like, disappears if you fly to it. It's like... I do like this, though. I love a temperamental weapon. That is funny. I do think that's a good bit. I think the sword should just, like, keep running away from Grim. Like, it just grows tiny feet and just, like, scuttles away.
Honestly, at this point, I had forgotten that we need to open the vault. I was like, oh, shiny sword.
Dude, I also forgot the vault. Like, when you were like, oh, like, Luck and Key, I was like, oh, are we doing the vault? Oh, no.
No, we're not doing the vault for a while.
Dude, is the sword gonna be in the vault? What is...
That would have been fun, though. The sword was the vault all along or something. Well, the next chapter is a present time chapter again. Basically, Isla visits Star Isle because they're preparing for war, and there's different strategies that they're going after, and one of them is that they need to create Starling power shields. So there's these shields that Starlings can do either around your body or around an object, and so far, Marin has been a perfect cooperation partner for Isla and like the Lightlark people. But after Isla asked, hey, what's it looking like? We need somebody to, create this shield. Marin hasn't answered. So Isla is angry. Isla's like, we're having stuff to do and you're actively hindering this operation. So she runs up to Marin. She's like, tell me now. I need the master. And we find out that the master wielder on Star Isle is not somebody in their early 20s, but it's actually a child, and it's Cinder.
Okay.
So they see that like Cinder has this inherent magic to herself that usually only a ruler would have. Like she's tiny and she can do these amazing Starling powers, and for her it's just games and fun. She's like, well, I don't know, I can just do it. And Issa's like, you fucking little piece of shit, I can't just do it, So Isla is still pretty pissed at Marin, and she's like, we need this child to make the shield. We all need to sacrifice.
Soldier.
We all need to sacrifice things on war. And Marin goes, well, I'll agree to it if Oro is the only other person who finds out, and if he's the one helping Cinder to create the shield, and if you keep this on the down low, because apparently something might happen to Cinder if people found out that she was such a strong wielder of power. Now, I thought this was gonna be an important plot point that would come up later on, but later during the big battle, she literally does her shield and that's it. This never comes up again. That Cinder is such a strong wielder of Starling power.
I thought it was gonna be like, oh yeah, Cinder's actually like an inheritor, like from the
new ruler
Starling,
or something,
like ruler line, and like you can abdicate to her, and like you don't have to keep being ruler of. But no, it never comes up again. Alternatively, I would have assumed it's like, hey, now you and Oro have like a kid. Good luck. Congratulations. Like, it's a girl.
Yeah, she can do magic things. We go back to before chapter because we need to push in this information somewhere. And Grimsent and Faisla go to find the thieves that stole the sword, and I don't remember why or how he found this out, but somehow Grim managed to find out who stole the sword last. And since they can't use his portaling powers because the sword is obviously probably still at the thief's lair, they have to row a boat from a little city to the hideout of the thieves. And since they're doing all of this stuff at night, and Grimm shouldn't be able to do that, obviously, because of the curse. But he had somebody else made him a necklace, like a charm, that would break that curse, basically. So Grimm is like the only nightshade that can walk around still at night.
I'm still also confused because, like, for Isla, her, like, nightshade powers are neutralizing her curse. Because they're, like, curse magic which can create and undo curses, so why are any nightshades cursed at all? Question mark?
Why
Good question.
Why do any of, like, why did Grimm not share his curse-breaking charm with the people living, like, that's something I don't get. But they're rowing there. It's at night, so none of the nightshades inside of the building seem to be awake. Isla searches the ground floor. Grimm searches the top floor. And they're like walkie-talkie-balkie. And Isla kills for the first time. She's like, oopsie. Kills some guys and ambush her. And Grimm, like, sees her, like, the way she kills one of them is really cool, though. It's sort of an accident in a way where she's like, this is literally my only chance. But she just holds the guy's head out of the window. Like, they have fabric in front of the windows, and she just, like, bursts through that, and he just basically disintegrates into the night, which I thought was, like...
So funny.
And this whole time I thought, why do you not just open the windows? And I'm like,
I love this.
She's actually
vampire.
She's actually doing reverse vampire. She's actually...
You go out in the dark, you die.
She's actually doing it. And then Grimm comes along, and he has one of the guys still alive. He interrogates him, and they find out that the sword isn't still there. One of the thieves went rogue and took that sword with him. He's at a place called Cretan's Crag, and they will recognize him by a snake. That's the information they have. And
is his name Thief McEvil? What?
I don't even remember if he has a name, to be honest. But yeah, that's the information they get out of there, and then the chapter stops.
Ooh, I did not die to it. God, I wish, Isla, I wish.
This is a chapter that, again, I thought was a concept idea that she wanted to have in there so fucking badly. So Isla and Enya go to the Moon Isle to convince the Vinderland people to join them. And Isla's like, how are you not scared? Because Enya's like, welcome to the Vinderland people. And Enya goes, well, when I was young, the oracle told my mom a prophecy, and me as well, and she told me the exact way and day I would die. So Enya goes, I do not die today. I know that I don't, so I'm not scared. Why should I be? And it felt a little bit, because Enya says this later during the big battle, I do not die today. It felt a little bit like Alex Aster wanted to create like one of those you do not yield quotes from Throne of Glass, you know, the I do not die today. But it felt very forced. It felt like...
It's also like, no shade, but it's a lot less cool if you're just convinced because you got a prophecy and it's not like, you know, a mantra about willpower or what, like, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot less impressive if it's just like, yeah, the stars told me I'm not dying.
I know. It just felt very artificially placed in a sense. They go to the Vinderland people. They get kind of jumped by them. The Vinderland people are like, the fuck you doing here? Isla's like, fight for me. They're like, the fuck you think we're fighting for you? One of them throws an axe, and Isla just destroys that axe with her hand, and it like disintegrates, turns into ash. And by using that power, in that moment, she has another memory.
That's so funny. It's just,
What I
like,
thought was...
the timing is so funny. Imagine somebody does that and then like they zone out and like 20 minutes later they come back to themselves. Like
Exactly. Like it's sometimes in the beginning it happens when she sleeps or stuff, or like faints. But these before chapters are starting to happen at points where it's like such a weird thing, because in like a second she must be able to like remember all of these things, no matter how long the memory is. So she's just getting the information injected in her, like.
It has like the energy of an anime where like they're in a fight and then the episode like ends and then like the whole next episode is the flashback and then like the flashback and next episode again like they're back to fight.
Yeah, exactly. But it was the first time where I was like, these flashbacks are getting a bit ridiculous. Basically what happens in this one, totally inconsequential again, when Grimm and Isla are at the thieves' hideout, Isla's like, brother, you just killed all of these nightshades. And Grimm says, well, because they weren't good people, obviously. And she's like, you can't just kill them. And he goes, you do not judge the nightshades because you have no place to judge anybody. You don't even know your own people. And she's like, damn, he's kind of right. So in this chapter, she goes out to kind of peep on her own subjects, because obviously she just can't walk into the village. She goes, la 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 la. And while she's looking at them from afar, she gets jumped by two people. She wakes up again in a house. She's like tied to a chair, and there's two wildlings with knives, and they're like, fucking hell, we're so hungry. And she goes, like, in her head, why can I be hungry? I thought there's a steady supply of hearts for us to eat. Obviously there isn't. So they start carving out her heart. They're just going at it. And she manages to create a puddle with the star stick behind her, and then just like whoop, fly over into the puddle with a chair. And she basically arrives in Grimm's room, like bleeding, like the heart, like her chest cavity is open. And Grimm is kind of, oh my god, what is happening? And he heals her, and they're starting to get a little bit flirty, patches up her wounds. And that's it. It's just another opportunity for them to like fondle.
This is straight up just the oral romance. Again. But this time with like they also bonded when she got like shot in the heart and then he helped her like, what is this? Why are we
they're
Alex
virtually
Aster,
the same
it was
character.
not a good romance the first time. Why are we doing this again? I'm so confused.
It's just this forced proximity of having to heal her and then them having like this little heart to heart.
Also,
I
like,
guess.
I think it's like weird for Grimm to be like this, because like this whole, oh, I don't want to like have anything to do. That's not the vibe he exudes at all.
Right.
Like the impression I got was that he knew who she was when he met her, and he thought like it would be good to like hang around her, and then he fell in love or whatever. This does not feel accurate to the kind of person he was portrayed to be in the book, like, prior. Right?
I know.
Like, this feels so weird.
It's definitely, I mean, because we have this present thing and the past thing at the same time, it definitely feels kind of weird. And you're just constantly wondering what is happening in between, like, back then, that could result in such a reaction out of him now in the present after the centennial. Because, I mean, there's also some time in between there, right? 100 days, to be exact. The centennial was 100 days. So, what the fuck happened?
Yeah, what's going on?
But that's how we leave this chapter. The next one is called Line Between Life and Death, and you might be thinking, oh wow, what's gonna happen here?
Cool.
If you remember, we left the last scene by her just disintegrating the axe, and that makes the Vinderland people go, oh my god, you're a shadow person. And then they suddenly want to fight for her. They don't fight for Lightlark. They want to be very clear about that. They fight for Isla. And she's like, that's great. How many people do you have? And they're like, hundreds. She's like, that's even better. Then they say, half of us are sick. So they can't fight. So she, they like agree. So she goes back to the Vinderland people with Calder, who, if you remember, is a moonling, but he's not really good at healing. So she helps him with the wildling elixirs, and he's just kind of making do, but he's not really helping the Vinderland people. So this is kind of the line between life and death that she has to struggle with. So there's another new side quest, heal the Vinderland people so they can help her fight, basically.
This does read like a video game in parts, like
right?
The disjointedness, the back and forth between before and now, like the way it feels like side quests, and there's very little story to tie these together. It's very strange,
especially
for
because
a romantasy book.
Yeah, especially because the chapters are so disjointed at times, and considering that we should be spending more time with Isla and Oro because they're the main couple, or supposed to be the main couple in this book at least. It's certainly a weird vibe that this whole thing gives off.
Also, like the time Isla and Grimm spent together, especially in the past, shouldn't they be hornier and like more in love or whatever? Like, shouldn't there be more chemistry and attraction?
Well, there's the typical like calling each other evil nicknames even though you kind of think the other person is hot, like whenever, when he went into the bathroom to take his bath, or when she patches up his wounds, he patches up her wounds. They do have these little moments of like, ooh, kind of sexy beast, but they're doing the typical I don't like you thing,
which does feel very strange to me. Like, the dynamic, I guess my problem is that the dynamic was weird in the first book with Isla and Oro.
Yeah.
I don't know why you'd repeat this.
And it just continues.
I don't even know why Isla and Grimm have to go on a quest together. We could have had her have, like, visions or premonitions about what he was doing, like, alone, and get, like, hints that he's, like, acquiring a super-powered sword. This didn't need to be in the past. I'm sorry. Yeah,
but I guess that's what I think. Alex didn't just want to have that. She wanted to have this struggle of falling in love with a person again in your mind who is evil. I think that's like kind of the struggle she wanted to go with.
Is he evil though? Like,
well,
politically, I mean
in the present he's
Lightlark.
Evil. In the present
but
he's
it's
evil.
also like, does he have a reason? Is he just experiencing like an extreme like emotional breakdown where he's just like a toddler? Like, what is he doing? He's
well,
like
that's what we don't know.
500 years old.
We know he's gonna make them all rot and die, so I guess that's.
But like, what does he get out of that? Like,
He's a possessive weird dude. I don't know. Honestly, at this point, I was like, I have no idea where this goes. And this was a little bit of a point where I struggled reading it.
Yeah, that's valid.
Because I was like, okay, where does this stupid thing go?
Yeah, where's this?
He does the healing. I really like this animation. Because,
so
like,
funny. God.
I love it. Okay, it's because we go back into a before chapter now. And you might think, okay, they're gonna go to the Cretan's Crack thing. They're gonna find the man with the snake. No. We have a training montage with Grimm and Isla. Basically, he explains to her how the star stick actually works. Like, what she needs to use it for, how she can use it. And he shows her that she can not just portal from island to island, but she can actually portal from like even closer distances, like a couple of meters, and that's what she learns, how to portal like short distances, and that's it. That's the chapter.
Did we need this Question
The
mark.
fun thing for me was, since in the end he deletes all of her memories, she doesn't have that skill in the Lightlark book, right? She always only uses the star stick to travel long distances. So this was literally just for funsies in this book.
Wasn't it like... Yeah, true.
Yeah. She doesn't use that in the new one. Or in the first book.
Yeah.
So it's just a little training montage to kind of let them have like scenes together, basically.
I'm also surprised that like requires training. My impression was like that it would be harder to go greater distances with like a teleportation device.
Well, apparently the way the
not.
star stick works is that she has to visualize where she wants to land.
But isn't that easier if you're in
So
the
she
same
can
room?
only go to places that she knows. And I don't know why she has struggles to not overshoot as much, but she has some issues in only traveling shorter distances.
Then how'd she get into the fucking not Darkling, Nightling or whatever, Nightshade territory? How did she get there? Like, she was never there before.
I have no idea. I have honestly no idea. Maybe it's like the star stick autopilot because it was...
Yeah, the star stick autopilot is like on shuffle and you have to like make active decisions if you want to go anywhere specific.
Maybe. But
we can't question the world building.
We cannot, honestly.
No sense.
Especially in the next chapter. Isla goes to the Star Isle again and she's like... Oh, wait, that's a spoiler. Isla goes to the Star Isle again. And she decides to go to that other side of the island because she's like, we cannot just sacrifice half of an island to monsters, right? And when she's there, she now we can't put the slide on. When she's there, she fights against a gigantic snake, and I was like, oh my god, that's so cool. She fights against the snake. The snake nearly kills her, but she manages to kind of catch it with like a lot of vines and like thorns, taking the snake in.
Cameo.
But the snake just like starts to shrink and actually turns into a person, a woman who is like an ancient wildling essentially, because some of the wildlings apparently were able to change shape.
I can't believe I said card and cameo and then the snake turned into a person.
Yeah, and then Isla goes, hey, wanna help me? And the woman obviously goes, the fuck I won't. And then Isla's like, well, if you want to survive, the island has to survive. And the woman goes, I am plenty old. I know how to take care of myself. Goodbye. And then that's it. Isla fights and talks to a snake woman, and then we have another before chapter.
Now she talks to a different snake.
Yes, literally. At some point, sometimes Alex Aster like puts in little connections between the chapters, and because she doesn't do it from the beginning, at first I was like, why do all of these chapters end on like cliffhangers, right? Because it'd be like, and Isla turned around and something was somebody else entirely. And I'm like, who? But, in the before, it was grim. It was a transition. Or she's like, and she hears a loud noise behind her. I was like, what was that loud noise? But at some point I actually realized it's like a transition. It was late, okay? And in this one, she's like, this reminded her of another time she had dealings with a snake. We go to the before. So, it's again Isla and Grimm, and they go to Cretan's Crag, which is like a little fisherman's city, and they ask around for like a guy with a snake, and some woman actually knows the guy with the snake, and she's like, oh, he's in that establishment over there, and that establishment where the guy and his snake are residing in is basically a strip club. That's
so funny.
So Grim and Isla are standing there, and Grim's like, well, how are we gonna get information out of him? I'm just gonna, or Isla asks, she's like, how am I gonna
pretend to be
I'm gonna make that? And Grim goes, well, aren't you like a seductress? Shouldn't you be able to just seduce the guy with your wildling powers? And I mean, she doesn't have the powers, right? But she goes,
Grim, why don't you go seduce him? Like, aren't you also hot? Like, sorry, but like, dude, work.
And she ends up saying, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And she goes behind the stage. She puts on the stripper clothing. She also gets a flask from one of the dancers who's like, we use this in order to, like, basically sedate the people that we dance for so that they get the reward, but they don't have to put out, so they only have to dance. They don't have to perform other sexual acts. And Isla asks, like, how can I get the attention of the snake guy? And the other girl's like, dude, just dance for him. He's like so fucking desperate. So that's what Isla does. She goes, she dances, and then he's like, oh, sexy girl, want to come over to me? So that's what she does.
Do you want to pet my snake? Question mark.
The snake can't hurt her, actually, because the guy took out the teeth of the snake, because the snake tried to bite him so many times that the snake doesn't have any teeth. He willingly drinks the wine she gives him, and she asks him about the sword, and he's like, that bitch of a thief actually stole the sword from me, so we have another thief who stole the fucking sword.
All the way down, dude.
And she's like, oh, you know where the thief has the sword? And he's like, oh yeah, at the caves of Irida. That's where the sword is. And she's like, well, if you know it, why didn't you get it back? You're such a great thief. And he's like, well, there's a monster guarding the sword. And she's like, oh, damn. Oh, no. And then, he falls asleep. And she talks to Grim about it. And she's getting, like, very hot and heavy and very horny. And they're close to, like, getting frisky in the booth. But then, and this was a moment I could understand him hustling. He takes the star stick, makes a puddle, and just pushes her through. He's
Dude,
like,
valid.
He doesn't ask her about the information she got. He doesn't, like, anything. They just nearly make out, and then he pushes her through the portal.
I can respect that.
And then we get the next chapter.
Dude, I am so fascinated by strip club, but also being like, okay, but like, it's sex work, but it's not like full service sex work. Don't worry. Like, as if, like...
Yeah, these are like boss ass bitches, and they just drug their the people
like,
that...
Why would people go back if they get drugged? Like, I feel like... Right.
I mean, maybe they just think they pass out because of alcohol. Perhaps.
I feel like if you wanted to run a, strip club and be like, this is strictly strip club, nothing else, no touching, you could just do that. Like, I feel like you could just advertise as that and be like, dude, if you come in here, there's guards, they'll chop off your hand if you touch one of the girls. Like, like, why drug the... Like,
I don't know, this is maybe it makes it more exciting. I don't know.
The strippers are like, I get turned on by poisoning people. Yeah, sorry, we need to do this. It's important.
That's the kink.
It's part of the workflow. Don't worry about it.
But yeah, you see, there's lots of stuff that it was clearly noticeable in this situation that Alex Aster wanted this scene of Isla dancing and seducing a guy, and Grim just being like, and
being horny in the corner.
Yeah, and she had to somehow piece that together to create a coherent scene, somehow. After, Isla has this wet dream about Grim, she feels horrible because of the sexy times, and she's just sad, like ultimately sad. And at some point, and this is where Azul is incredibly unhelpful, the Skylings have also decided they want to leave Lightlark. They're like, we can just fly away. you know, we don't want to be here. And since it's a democracy, there's going to be a vote of the Skylings, and that actually happens in this chapter. Whether they will leave or not. So we have Azul, we have the Skylings, and unfortunately, the vote is that they will have a Skyexit. They will leave.
God,
and
that's
Azul is
so
like,
good.
there's nothing I can do, buddies. The Skylings voted.
I am so confused because I was like, I feel like the first book presents it as if like, if Lightlark perishes, their powers are also in danger. Mm-hmm. So why is Grimm what? I don't get it.
I know. There's a lot of things.
Oh, there's lore. Okay.
There's a lot of things that are kind of weird. Honestly, we're at... On my notes, we're about halfway. And basically, the Skylings decide, okay, we will leave some people here to fight for you, but the overwhelming majority of people will leave Lightlark to be safe. And one of the most important things is that Azul doesn't fight. Like the strongest, the guy who can ensure the most that, you know, people don't die. Isn't allowed to fight. But on the other hand, this is very smart by the Skylings because they're trying to ensure that their ruler doesn't die. So I kind of can understand their hustle. And one other condition for those couple of Skylings joining the fight is that Isla has to establish a democracy with the Starlings as well. So she says at some point she was going to do it, and the Skylings are like, well, you have to promise doing it now. Otherwise, we will not give you those couple of Skylings. And she agrees.
I mean, honestly, like, how would you even, like, there is, like, obviously, as a modern person, you're like, yeah, obviously, democracy is a better form of government. Mm-hmm. But, like, your democracy will be insanely handicapped by the fact that there is one person who is literally by blood like the most powerful, connected to the island. You can't really like do anything about that. Like, you know what? Like, it's like,
I know exactly what you mean.
and like, especially if that exists, wouldn't people also like form religion around the fact, like, if it's like, we had kings who just claimed the divine right of kings, but these people have like legitimately, like, basically divinely inspired powers. Like, they were clearly like chosen to be there. Wouldn't like culturally, like, also, how would a democracy even come to be? If these people die and your like country like just is dead immediately.
I know. It's a bit of a weird situation, and I was already in Lightlark in the first book. I was already like, they have a democracy.
Why?
Like, it feels like a fake democracy if there's still one guy who can just, you know, who has all the power. And I mean, in our democracies, there's also always somebody who is at the top and who like, you know, decides all the thing. But we don't die if our Bundeskanzler dies, you know?
Yeah, also, like, our Bundeskanzler isn't from a bloodline of Bundeskanzlers, you know? Like, you know,
Imagine,
it's not a heritable position.
Thankfully.
God, yeah.
But yeah, that's what happens in this chapter, basically.
Cool. Thanks, Azul, for nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And that takes us back to a before chapter. So Grimm hasn't been visiting Isla for quite a while, even though she knows of the information where the sword is. So she's like, I'm just gonna find the sword on my own. Like, fucking piece of shit. Maybe I can use this as leverage. So she goes on some night market shenanigans again because she wants to find a map of Nightshade to see where these caves of Irida are. And she's going there, beepity boop boop beep beep boop. She's being a bit more.
To get a map.
She's being a bit more sneaky this time. I'm giving her the credit. She has learned what to do, but she still gets ambushed by not one, not two, not three, four, I think even 6 people. They're all very capable nightshades, and they basically drag her through the mud. Like, she gets hurt. They rip her cloak off. Glass everywhere in her hands. It's obviously a dangerous situation, even though we know there will be no harm towards Isla because, plot armor. And she tries to portal away with the star stick, but the others notice, and one of the attackers actually goes through the portal. And she was at least smart enough to not try to portal away to her home, but she actually created a portal to Grimm's bedroom.
Oh my god!
So that poor guy, I don't know what happens to him in that bedroom, but at some point Grimm appears a couple seconds later, and he does this typical situation. And this was a scene that Alex Aster did advertising for Nightbane with, which was the where he turns around and he's like, "Who did this to you?" And Isla's traumatized, shocked, and she's also like, "I don't want to snitch. What happens to that person that I say who did this to me?" And then he goes, "Well, then all of them," and he just breaks all of their necks. Just
dude,
that's
I
it.
thought he was gonna do some magic shit, but I guess good old-fashioned force it is. Then.
He uses his nightshade powers and just breaks all of their necks. That's it. That's the chapter.
You know what? With her constantly going to his bedroom, in the first book, when you hear the backstory, you're like, oh, this feels inappropriate for this guy. But now she is harassing him, so I don't know if I feel bad for her anymore.
True. The next chapter is again one of those chapters where it's just a weird assortment of things. So one way to try to win the war is that they need a special mineral for the Starlings to create a special armor. And I don't remember who it was, Calder or Zed. I think it was Zed, but I'm not sure. He's like, we found the ores in the mines, but we can't get them out. So there's a cool scene where Isla sticks her hands into the wall, and she can feel the ore due to her wildling powers, and then she just takes the hand out of the wall again, and she's like, here, there's the ore. It's magic. Next scene, she goes to Soren because Calder is shit at healing the Vinderland people, and she's like, you're a moonling, you're a good healer, and you're obviously a spy for Cleo if you don't want to help me.
Wait, I was about to say, Soren is still there?
Yeah, he's still there.
That's crazy.
So he goes, I can help you heal the Vinderland people. When he actually manages to. I thought this was going to be this big problem that they will have to solve, but Isla just basically switches out the healers and suddenly the Vinderland people are healed. Cool. That's it. And then she just practices riding Lynx a little bit. Lynx still doesn't really like her, but she gets better at riding him. Into battle, I guess. That's the idea. And that's just the assortment of things that happened in this chapter before we get to another before chapter.
I mean, I love cats. I love big cats. I love a huge cat, even. But how is this cat helping in a fight with magic users? It's just a big animal. I mean,
you have to remember, not all of the people on the islands are strong wielders.
Yeah, but I assume if I'm a nightshade, ruler, and I was a general or whatever at one point, I've been to war, I feel like I'd choose people who are effective at killing people.
I guess.
I'm not gonna question it. I'm just okay, do we have armor for this cat, or is it dying immediately?
We actually do. That's a chapter later on.
Oh my god.
Well, let's continue with this before chapter. So they're finally deciding to go to these caves of Irida. They find the cave. They see the sword. but there's a dragon sleeping in front of it. And the fun thing is that Alex is like setting this up for to be some strange new monster, and then it's like, it's a dragon. You go, oh, well, that could have been explained in a lot shorter amount of words than you just did. Essentially, Isla is still scared as fuck because she thought dragons were extinct, but I guess they weren't. And they're like, okay, the dragon is sleeping. We can just try to sneak around the dragon and get the sword. Like, the thief isn't even there anymore. It's just a dragon and the sword. And like a little bit of a dragon's hoard that they can see, and the sword's like stuck in it. So they're like, sneaky sneak. Sneaky sneaky sneak. And then there's arrows that go, sneaky sneak 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 sneak. Isla gets hit by one arrow, and Grim kind of like jumps in front of her, into like, it's like the meme with the mama wolf and the baby wolf, you know, that like shields the arrows. And they have to sneak out of the cave while he's still bleeding out, because obviously he can't use his powers to portal, because then the sword will disappear. So they kind of sneak away a little bit. Then they go back to his place, in his room. She patches them up, and while they're talking, he's like, well, but powers, my powers get stronger through the pain, so like every single wound makes it worth it. And she's like, the fuck you saying? And he's, oh, this is a normal technique. I wonder why your trainers haven't implemented this yet. But yeah, emotions heighten the wielding powers. So he would be a total edgelord and like hurt himself on purpose just to get stronger, essentially.
Dude, that's so stupid.
That's
also, no one in the first book did this. I think he's just making shit up. I think he's lying.
I think he's the only one who was just like cutting himself in order to.
I think he just has a self-harm problem, but that's a him problem. So.
That's a him problem, exactly.
Let's unpack this.
Which takes us over to the next chapter called Pain. Isla sees this as a way out for her. So she goes, oh, you know what? I'm just gonna inflict pain on myself. So she cuts her hand. She makes these gigantic thorns bloom up everywhere. And these thorns the idea is to make the area where the Nightshades could access Lightlark smaller. So there's like now thorns and toxic plants all over Lightlark. That would kill or hurt somebody tremendously as soon as they walk into it. And she's high on the power. She's feeling transcendent. She has never felt better. And then Oro's like, the fuck you doing over there? Like, what's happening? He immediately realizes why she's doing what she's doing. He's like, he told you in your memories, right? She's like, yeah. He says that it's never a good idea to use pain, because that will make you lose control. And it's like, it's a non-healthy way of learning how to wield your powers.
You should
she's
use
like,
sex instead.
she's like drunk on this feeling, and she's like, yeah, whatever. He doesn't know the real her. He doesn't know how broken and destroyed she is. And he's like super worried about her, but she just stomps off. And she stomps off to Aurora's old room that's still intact in the castle. And there's like glass orbs that are just lying around, and she goes, hiya! And like throws them to the ground and like destroys them. And out of one of these glass orbs comes a feather. And it's like a writing feather. It's very sharp, and she tries to write on paper with it, but it doesn't work. So she just like puts it into her pocket, and that's the end of the chapter.
I love...
Can we appreciate the animation I did for these?
Yeah, no, that's amazing. But also,
Thank you.
Random. Like, why is there one feather?
I don't get it. And again, this is something that doesn't get brought up throughout the book.
Like, this is like the energy of a video game where you like destroy 5 crates, but only one has like a reward. But like you just like destroy looting. Everything because you know sometimes there's items in there.
It's like Link, you know, in Legend of Zelda, just destroying everything to find those shards. Yeah.
Honestly, it's more like the Lego games where you just literally destroy everything everywhere
for the
and
money.
Get rewarded for it.
But at least there you get rewarded. Like she had to destroy tons of glass orbs to get to one. But yeah, it's of no importance. It never pops up anywhere again.
Cool.
So
I love cohesive writing.
Me too, honestly. Especially because the next before scene is just them doing the same thing again.
No!
They go back to the cave. They they avoid the arrows, but there's just a next trap that springs into place. So they realize, okay, we'll have to like train this thing like a ninja warrior course. Like they have to recreate it in order to train to be able to get past all of the traps, and in order to grab the sword and get away, basically. And that's it. That's the before chapter. Oh no, they actually go in a bathtub and bath together and heal and have a little moment. And that's it. Sorry.
What?
Forgot that.
How, like... just,
you're so surprised.
I just, like... After reading book 1 of Lightlark, what sane person would have predicted this? Like,
honestly, that's why I'm here.
There's a booby trap cave with a sword in it. Also, there's a sleeping dragon. Like, is the dragon even sleeping? Is he dead? Because, like, I feel like they're causing enough, like,
I know,
ruckus for an animal to be like, hey, what's going on?
But no.
I love it.
The next chapter is called Armor, and this is where your idea comes in. I clicked too fast. Basically, Isla goes to Ren and she's like, hey, I want to make some armor for Lynx. Like, do you have any schematics? And Ren goes, we already have armor for Lynx. And she's like, really? Like, yeah, we have armor. So she puts it on. It's kind of cute. Like, there's a description of like these little holes for his fluffy ears and stuff. There's a saddle on it now, so she can ride him much better than before. And they go on a little ride out of the countryside, and then they stop in a clearing, and Lynx kind of connects his mind to Isla and projects old memories from Lynx. Hey, okay. All right.
No, I'm laughing at the projecting memories from the cat. I don't know. Why is this happening?
I didn't really know how to draw it, but she's like touching him, and then around her, like it looks a little bit different. Like it's like they have a sort of connection. It's not like R2-D2, like projecting Princess Leia going, "You're my only help, Obi-Wan." It's not that.
No, but also just fundamentally being like, hey, you know what we need in this story? Having memories shared from the cat to you about like your mom, who you never knew and never are going to interact. Like, what?
Exactly. It's just supposed to be like a cute little moment. She sees her mom when she's a child, like playing with Lynx, and then she sees her parents like right after she was born, and she's just so happy to realize that her parents actually like got to meet her, in the sense of her mom didn't die in childbirth, her father didn't die before she was born. Like they had this one moment where they met Isla when she was a baby, and it's just like supposed to be a cute little break, I guess, in between all of the crazy that happens there.
I feel like this would be more meaningful if like it had anything to do with anything else that's going on.
That's true.
Like, since a lot of the before is also happening in like Nightshade territory, like you could have connected it in a way that like her father is like wearing something or something that like becomes relevant to like their now fight against Nightshade or whatever.
Yeah.
But like having it just be a memory of like, yeah, we know these people wanted the baby and we know like they were killed after they had the baby. Like I don't know why we need this.
It's
because like the book's long,
true.
right? It's not a short book. It's not like
400 pages, 400 and something.
Yeah, it's not like they needed padding. I mean, everything is padding, really, so far, but...
It honestly feels like there's a lot of padding just for the before scenes. Like, she wanted to write all of these memories, and then there's some plot for the present, and she didn't know how to structure it, so she kind of... Yeah, that's what it feels like. But yeah, that's a chapter. And we go back to before. And this is my magnum opus, okay? I went all out on drawing this scene.
I am
Grimm appears to Isla, and he goes, we're not going to look at the cave today, okay? Because I have a ball. So just, you can chill today. And Isla goes, a ball? And he's like, no. And she's like, yes. And he's like, no. So he goes away again. Isla dolls herself up to look as sexy, smexy as possible. And the dress she's wearing, the descriptions are like very night court, under the... like not under the mountain, but like hewn city sort of style. He tells her that, and then he vanishes, and then she still goes. Okay, so we have to the left, we have the hallway, and then we have the grand ballroom, right? And this is one where my favorite quote of the whole book comes from.
Oh, God.
She's in there, it's like raunchy, right? It's like a real party going on there. And there's people in the hallway. Oh, where's the rest of the people? There's people in the hallway. And there are couples that were coupling. That's how she describes it. She's like, oh, there's this going on, and then couples were coupling, and they're like, yeah, they're all having a lot of fun at this ball. And Isla is like, all right, I'm gonna go inside, yada da 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 da. And she sees Grimm sitting on his throne. There's like women all over him, but he's not interested in them. And he sees her as soon as she walks in, and he's like so fucking annoyed, right, that she's there. He's like,
nothing gets me hornier than when a guy's like, ugh, not this bitch again.
Couldn't be more inconvenience. and she's like in a little fit of rage and confidence. She like blows him a kiss, and a guy walks along, and he's like, hey, wanna dance? And she's like, yeah, of course I wanna dance. So they dance. Oh, is that the right animation? I don't think it is. Or is it? No, it's not. Okay. They having the little dance. He gives her some wine. She drinks it. She feels ecstatic. And this was the scene that reminded me of Silver Flames, because there's also a scene where Nessa does like an immaculate ballroom dance, because Nessa was trained to dance by her parents back then, and like Cassian watches, and it's the same situation here. You know, she's like dancing, and then Grimm is like super jealous.
I mean, yeah, but at least with Nesta and Cassian, I feel like Cassian wasn't like, oh, I can't believe this bitch is in this room right now. Like,
yeah, that's true.
I feel like he was like, oh, cool, Nesta's here. We should fuck.
And the guy's like, wanna go out into the hallway with me? She's like, hell yeah.
Fucking in the hallway? What is this?
Oh no, that actually was the right animation. They were dancing.
Aww, that's so cute.
And now they're going to the hallway. I didn't practice this, you can notice. And she's like, her idea, which honestly, being as sheltered as she is, I'll give her that. She's like, if I kiss this guy, if I make out with him, and it just feels the same like I feel with Grimm, then it's not me being interested in Grimm. It's just me being like intimate with somebody for the first time. So she kisses the guy. She feels nothing. He like starts groping her. She feels nothing. And then suddenly Grimm just goes there and like sticks his his actual sword through the guy's chest, and she goes, oh my god, did you do that because he kissed me? And Grimm goes, no, I did this because he poisoned you. So basically, the wine she got roofied by the guy.
Dude,
And he quickly gives her an antidote because she would have like fallen asleep in like a couple of minutes, and then the guy would have sexually assaulted her. But I loved her going, "Did you kill him because he kissed me?" Like, no, you were poisoned.
I'm just kind of fascinated at this build-up of the way their relationship is in Lightlark. It's so incongruent. Like, it does. What?
Yeah, we haven't even gotten to the worst and cringiest line. You know, excellence with couples who are coupling, and complete
they
disappointment.
Gave her a special drink, a special tea.
With what with what I'll say now is, he's like, "You were that desperate, you were that horny, you just jump any random guy." She's like, "I'm not horny," and he says, "I can feel it, you little slut. And one day, you're gonna get fucked by me."
What
and that's it.
The fuck?
And she's like, "Oh my god."
You should use this as the intro to the episode.
Probably I will. I'm gonna write it down.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the scene. Clap your hands for this fucking chapter.
Slow clap.
Slow clap.
Dude, this really is just really hard discount face and
yeah.
I'm sorry, but at least Rysand is also a weirdo, but at least Farah and him have chemistry. I don't know what this.
And also Akomath was fun. As stupid as some of the scenes were, Akomath had a nice red line that went through the book, and any of the shenanigans felt useful in a way.
It was so Akomath, the plot is not particularly good.
Yeah.
But the characters are what carries it, and you can tell that Sarah cares about that, or at the time was invested in writing this in a compelling way and had good ideas, and the scenes work for the characters. Yeah. This is one of those prime moments where it really is just a lot of these very young authors who just don't understand what makes the books that are popular work. Because sure, there's a lot of things wrong with Sarah J. Maas books, but there is a reason people like them more than other books that are similar.
Yeah, that's true.
At the core, at least, I mean, I can't speak of the newer ones. Akko War was also bad, but Akomath has very strong an emotional through line that really works.
Akomath is a book I would read again. Because it was fun. It's not one of those books where I say, all right, I only read it for the plot to kind of get with with the news. Akomath is something that I genuinely sometimes I'm I should read that again. It was fun.
Honestly, I would be you need to read ACOTAR to have the emotional preparedness for Akomath, because there's just a lot of things that
that
you
go
should
on.
know from the first book, so the second book gets all the feelings going. And then if you want to know how the story ends, you can read Akko War, or you can read a summary. It's not the experience of Akko War is not that good, but Akomath in itself is it's totally worthwhile to read if you are interested in that kind of book. That's
honestly, if the whole series was written like Akomath, I think it would be one of my favorites, because it would be better than Throne of Glass, but it isn't. So Throne of Glass is
crazy.
still
the thing really is that I feel Sarah J. Maas peaked at the time she wrote Akomath, because I think she wrote Queen of Shadows and then Akomath, and then somewhere around the same time Air of Fire, Queen of Shadows, and Akomath all came out. I think fairly around the same time. I think Akomath came out after Queen of Shadows. So that was her high point, and then she stopped getting edited properly by her editors, and everything's gone downhill since.
It's so sad. But yeah.
Yeah. But let's talk about the book we're here to talk about.
It's like this meme of like, oh, that was Melanie. That's so sad. Yeah, are you up for one of the most insane info dumps?
Oh my god.
After Crescent City still is like up here. But also probably because I haven't read like Mistborn or something. But
give it to me. My body is ready.
So, Isla. Wait, I have to. Okay. So first of all, she has a short talk with Enya. We find out Enya is gay.
Cool.
Another little representation thing going on. And then she goes to the Star Isle and she's noticing she's being followed. And she's like, you little piece of bitches, I have powers now. You kidnappers, you have nothing on me. So she pretends to get kidnapped. She easily overpowers them. And then she finds out, one of them is Marin. Like our Moonling girl, or Starling girlie.
No, man.
And
how could you do this?
we then find out who these kidnappers are and what they want to do. So brace for it. The current system of the rulers makes it so that everybody has been tied to the rulers, but the purpose is, it's not just a funny little thing, because years ago the king's ancestor used a curse to create the nexus, so everybody except for his line only has one power. So looking back to it, right? Oro has multiple powers. Yeah. But the rest of them don't, right? That's because of this Nexus curse. Okay, we're going back. So there's the Nexus curse. And the king also created curses so that only one from his line has all the abilities. And the people are also cursed to be tied to the rulers so they would never be able to overthrow their rulers. And it was buried in the history, and then the regular islanders worked out that they can actually leave the realm and break their curse if they denounce the power that they have. So if you are a Sunling, you can denounce your power. You're not bound to the Sunling ruler anymore, but you also have to lead Lightlark, basically. And this is what this little rebel group is all about, because they, and now get it, you remember that people have something called flares? It's like a little extra thing. Oro knows when people lie and stuff. Apparently, Isla has a flare so that she can withstand curses. That's it. It's not her nightshade powers. Oh. It's that she herself can withstand curses. And now the rebels try to kidnap Isla in order to, persuade her to help them break their curses. And the only thing that, also, there's a lot of typos. Don't look too close to this text. And the only thing that they need for that, next to Isla, is, to kill Oro on the way. And she's like, no, I'm not gonna do that. Like, I don't want to kill my boyfriend. And they're like, come on, thousands of us, one boyfriend. And she's like, no, I don't think I will do that. And that's the end of the chapter.
Okay. This... First off, the whole, Isla has a flare, which makes her immune to curses. Has very strong... Alex Aster saw reviews of Lightlark and was like, oh, my explanation that they didn't like that. Oh, I need a new idea.
It's like damage control.
Yeah, no, it reads like this because, quite frankly, why would you even use the first explanation if there was a flare, right? Like, come on.
Yeah.
And how would these people know this before Isla does? Stupid.
Yeah.
Also, this is stupid. The idea, if you are saying that curses are a specific type of magic, and that nightshades can make and unmake curses, why the fuck has none of them noticed that everyone's fucking cursed and been like, hey, maybe we should do something about this before the fucking centennial curse?
The Nexus curse was done by a nightshade. The original king, the ancestor of Oro, convinced the nightshade to make this Nexus curse. and then all those extra curses that kind of created the dependency from the subjects to the rulers, so they wouldn't overthrow them. And then the centennial curses were a cute little addition, and that was the moment when the rebels started to like work on dismantling the system, because they realized whatever, like, we cannot like let the rulers do all of this. We have to take agency of our whole lives.
Then where
so that's
were
why
they during the centennial?
Honestly, we didn't see them because Alex Aster only thought of them in book 2. So
no, they were in the tunnels. We couldn't see them because they were underground.
They were in the tunnels.
No, but
I wonder, is like Oro lying awake at night, and if one of the kidnappers like kind of throws a stone in the tunnels, does he feel like he has a parasite or something? He's like, ugh.
But also, like fundamentally, nothing against, like, this idea is like perfectly fine world building idea to put into your world. Like, it's that's totally respectable. But like, you don't think literally everyone would notice that their magics got restricted and that like they're bound to their rulers now? Also, how would they even know? Like, did you tell them you did this?
I have no idea.
Why would anyone listen to you? Like,
I have no idea, especially because it's like they say, oh, it's been buried in history throughout. And it's like, well,
everyone
but it's,
here was like hundreds
people don't
of years
just
old.
People don't just stop forgetting as well. Like, if there's something as significantly happening to like in your life, you're gonna tell that to your offspring. You're gonna write that down in a diary or something.
Especially like because all the realms are like have their own separate libraries from the king's library. They would all write this down themselves. Like, even if the king tried to censor it, he can't get into there because they're like, no, fuck off. We don't want you in here.
Yeah, and because that would also mean that some king, well, maybe the original king like did straight up like burning books and stuff, to kind of
but again, how
put it down.
Like, all these people have like secret libraries which you can't get into unless you're from their specific ruler families. So it's like he can't get in there, like, even if he wants to. Like,
but that was such a weird. I had to screenshot that page and write it down word for word into my notes so I could make this little text that flies over the screen. Because it was more. I toned it down.
That was so fucking funny. When the text started scrolling, I was like, oh my god, this is the funniest.
So like, it's truly, it was one info dump.
Like, fundamentally, like, again, I don't have anything against this as a world building idea, but it makes no sense for this world where like people are hundreds upon hundreds of years old and would remember this. Like, a lot of history is just forgotten because the people who experienced it died, and
but they don't
it wasn't
really
written down because it was hard to preserve text from, like, because things disintegrate in weather and like it's insane to be like, oh no, this happened, but people forgot. You would never forget. Are you shitting me? If you lived, like, if you were like a bunch of like people and like, sure, you intermingled, but you still were like distinct, had your own like in groups or whatever, and you had diverse magic types. Never mind why the fuck there were like, why were there wildlings when people could have more than one magic anyway? Yeah. Like, why were you? But like, if you lived in a like diverse place and then suddenly people started losing their powers, and like, would not literally everyone be like, something's wrong, we need to investigate, and then immediately point fingers at Nightshade, and then a huge chunk of Nightshade would also point fingers at like the people leading them, because like, what the fuck? But like, just why the fuck is no one talking about this? Why is no one aware? But also, quite frankly, I mean, I guess they have oracles and stuff, so they could find out that a whole like civilization dies out if their ruler dies out. I guess you can learn that from an oracle, but I'm still like, how everyone would know who to blame.
I know.
The moment
I know.
one guy still has several kinds of power and everyone else doesn't, it's like, yeah, he's getting murdered.
I honestly
there's no way they're letting this slide. That's insane.
I honestly feel like the original Nightshade that made this curse would have also had to delete all of the people's memories.
Which makes no sense.
Yeah. It's an info dump out of convenience that I think is being a setup. But
I feel just like, how do the rebels know this? Maybe they're wrong. Maybe they don't know what they're talking about.
Well, they said these rebels started centuries ago, when the Centennials first started. Because they were like, fucking hell, we're not gonna just let the rulers, like, hash it out.
I can't believe the story got stupider than Lightlark 1. Somehow it's...
Let's continue with the before chapter.
No, let me... Tell me about it.
It's already long enough.
Yeah, how they're fucking in the hallway or whatever.
No.
No, they didn't.
So
Sure.
Isla's chilling in her room, and then suddenly Grimm, like, portals into the room, and he collapses because he was, like, hurt by monsters. And she's like, oh my god, they portal back to his room.
Why?
So she can heal him there. Well, because there's still the chance that Tara and, what was her name?
But if they come into the room and she's gone, that's also suspicious.
Oh, they mentioned this at some point. He always puts up an illusion that it looks like Isla is there.
But, like, how does he do that when she surprise portals into his bedroom without him knowing? Okay, whatever.
Yeah, just imagine him portaling in there and it's just like Tara and Isla having a training session. He portals them back to his room. She helps him and he tells her about the Drex, that they come out of something called a scar. This is very Darkling, Shadow and Bone.
I was about to say, yeah, some of this is extremely Darkling coded.
They come out of a scar, and so far he has always just he has fought these Drex. But the sword that they are looking for was made by Grimm's ancestor called Cronin. Cronin made the sword which you can use to rule over the Drex, and you can also create new ones. And Grimm wants to find the sword to stop them from attacking. So he wants to rule over them by saying, just fucking stop. A previous ruler, not named, after Cronin, decided that it's not a good idea for the Nightshade Kings to have this power over, like, to be able, because Cronin wanted to use the Drex to invade Lightlark. So then, and one of the rulers was like, and they cursed the sword to not be used by Nightshade.
I thought Nightshades were the only ones who can do curses.
Well, one of the Nightshade rulers did the curse. One of the Nightshade rulers was very self-aware and was like, we're not doing this.
Okay, whatever.
And one of the reasons why, and now we're coming back to the beginning of the book, one of the reasons why Grimm had the situation with all the women lined up is that while he has to result in an heir for the kingdom, falling in love with someone would make people be able to, like, access his shadow powers, and that would be bad if that person then, not having shadow powers, can use the sword through his powers. So basically he never sleeps twice with the same person. He just it's just a breeding ground, basically. He gets shown pretty women, he fucks them, and they hope that at some point he creates an heir. And that's the explanation for his harem.
No shade, but, like, you don't need to pick a new girl every time. You can just pick girls you don't like. If you were if you're just interested in preventing being in love, you can just be like, wow, like, her laugh is so annoying, I want to kill myself every time. And, like, you'll never love her, so you can fuck her until she's actually pregnant, whatever. Like, you don't need to pick a new girl every... I feel like this roulette makes it just more likely you might meet somebody you could fall in love with.
Because there's so many he meets.
Because there's more people to choose from. You should just stick with people you're like, oh god, we don't get along at all, but for the good of the kingdom...
we're gonna fuck. Yeah.
This is so stupid.
So that's basically like the big mystery behind the sword. We talked about Drex. And then the next chapter, called Loyalty, is again a blah blah chapter. Isla tells them all about what happens. And did I animate this? No, I didn't. In the end, Isla goes to the Serpent Lady again, but she again tells her no. She's not gonna ally herself with Isla. But other shadow creatures do. So they are loyal to Isla, but not the Serpent Lady.
I don't understand why, now that they're aware of the sword, Isla doesn't just teleport to Grimm, which then immediately teleports the sword somewhere he can't get it, because it doesn't like shadow powers. Like,
they're doing like 4D chess over here.
This is like, you know. But like, also, if she knows that, like, and she's like, wait, he's obsessed with me and he's in love with me, can't I just use the sword to like tell all these creatures to kill themselves, so literally this problem never arises again, because they'll just all be dead?
Honestly, you're too smart for this book. There's stuff that happens that kind of negates what you're trying to say, but they don't know yet. But the fact that I didn't even think about it, they're not good strategists. Let's just say that.
I feel like everyone there is pretty stupid, but that's fine, because Grimm is also not very smart.
Oh yeah, I find love it before chapter. Grimm takes Isla out on a little date, and they see all of these flowers. And you, as a reader, have noticed these flowers before, and those are the flowers that are extremely rare on the wildling Newlands, and that they extract the healing elixir out of. And Grimm reveals that these flowers are called Nightbane, and that if a nightshade extracts the elixir out of the flower, you create like Nightbane, the drug. But if a wildling does it, they create the healing elixir. Oh, wait, what is this? Oh, no, okay, that's the next one. But because... and Isla's like, this is my time to shine. So she's like, okay, listen, we have a trade. We wildlings create healing elixir out of these flowers for you guys, but you give us hearts and like supply us so that we can sustain ourselves. And Grimm is like, deal, we'll do it. We'll aid you. And then they nearly kiss and like, oh my god, I'm so close. But then he flies away because there's like activity at the scar, and she's just there.
I am imagining him flying away like a video game glitch where he just like
like
starts
a T-pose,
moving like diagonally into the air and not like.
But that's a chapter.
Okay. Again, not something I expected out of this book, and also stupid. Also, like, again, I feel I'm going a bit insane, because the way Grimm talks about their relationship in the first book doesn't sound like, oh yeah, we had like a practical alliance and then it became more, but it sounded like, oh yeah, I saw you and I'm a groomer. Like, you know, it did. The vibes were not this. That's all I'm saying.
Well, aren't you in for a little surprise?
Oh my god.
But before all of that, we go to the next chapter, right? We're taking these tiny little baby steps. Chapter's called Gone, and Isla's really angry because she goes to the wildling Newlands, and everybody is gone. Literally, they were kidnapped by Grimm. That's so it. Funny. That's the chapter.
That's so fucking funny.
Now, the Isla is worried about Grimm. Something might happen to him because, you know, he's gone. She doesn't see him anymore. He went off to fight the Drex. And so she goes looking for him, and, you know, they have sex.
Ah, cool.
That's the chapter. Again, the sex scene was blissfully undetailed.
Cool.
That's what I would call them. It's
That's
like,
good, yeah.
you are aware of what's happening. This one was very obvious that it was going to happen, but it was thankfully not detailed enough for me to have to live through that. But yeah, again, she's doing a good job on that, to not be too, because I feel like if she would try to describe it more, it'd be very cringy. And the book is already plenty cringy enough. So the one thing you criticized of her not just simply calling Grimm is actually something she does now. She's fucking furious. He abducted a whole island, so she calls him, and Grimm meets her for the first time. And he's a happy camper. He's like, oh my god, finally. He's smiling all over his face, and he's super happy until he realizes that she doesn't completely remember. And he's like, oh shit, fuck. she's not aware of all of the facts that exist. And she says, why did you abduct the wildlings? And he goes, they came out of free will. She says, I don't believe you. And he says, well, I offered them to take their memories away because a lot of them feel very bad about eating the hearts during the curse and like killing all of the people. And especially, there was this thing where if you loved somebody, you had to carve out their heart and eat it and stuff. So he took the memories away, and now they're all happily vibing on Nightshade. And
yeah, that's also what I would say if I took someone's memory. I would be like, no, you wanted this, I promise.
And that's it. Wrong tap. He disappears. She tells this. She like talks this again to Oro and Remlar, and she noticed the connection is still there, like the bond between her and Grimm. So she goes, Remlar, I know it's extremely controversial, but you need to teach me how I can shut out his powers through the bond. Like, is there a way that I can take his powers away? So that's the next little thing they're doing.
Cool, finally.
I know, some progress, some critical thinking.
Yeah, like, first book, like, oh yeah, you could even take the powers if someone's in love with you. And it's like, well, maybe you should do that if he's so dangerous and trying to murder people. But,
and that's what they're finally wanting to do. In the next
no one suggested it earlier. Or it wasn't like, hey, he was like high-key in love with you. Maybe... we can just try. If it doesn't work, then okay, he's not really in love with you. He just thinks he is. But like, if it works, that's cool.
The thing is, since Oro knows when people lie or don't lie, he definitely knows that Isla is in love with him, because when she tells him, she like asks him in one of the previous scenes that are kind of cutesy. She's like, ask me if I love you, and he's like, I won't do that. And she's like, no, ask me if I love you.
You can just say it is like,
and then he asks her, and she's like, yes, I do love you. And then he notices it's not a lie. So I guess maybe they didn't consider, because there needs to be some emotions back, right? It's not just a one-way connection.
I mean,
right?
Maybe it is now, but the first book was like, no, you can just, you can be in love with someone and they don't love you back and they can just take your power.
Then I misremembered it. But okay, yeah, the connection is there and they want to use it. The next before scene, absolutely fucking useless. They go on a little like Coachella festival date to the Skyling place. Like she dresses like glitterily, has festival makeup, glitter everywhere. They nearly have sex in a hot air balloon. Yeah.
What? Okay, first I was like, this is like the discount Starfall of the series, but
a little bit. They go there, they go into the hot air balloon, there's like lights and balloons and like glitter everywhere, and then they make out, and then that scene is kind of funny. He, like, Grimm pushes her out.
Gas? Do they have, like, how are they powering?
Maybe it's a Skyling at the bottom going wee wee wee. He pushes her out of the hot air balloon, like, together, and then portals her right into her bed, and she's like, all right, let's go, buddy. And he's like, it just sets her aside and leaves. He cock blocks her.
That's so funny. No one wants to fuck her. They're all like, you know
The
what? No.
poor girl,
No.
honestly. Yeah, oh, and the skylings fly. I forgot about that.
Yeah, this. I was waiting for the stairs to fall down again.
No, I took that out. There's another before chapter, which shows you just how desperately Alex Aster wanted to have the little Coachella date in there.
Because it did nothing, and
they again try to steal the sword.
oh my god!
And this time, do I have the arrows in there? Yeah, the arrows, they attack them. Isla is like super good at this stuff now. She gets past the traps. Grimm is distracting the dragon, and this is super unceremoniously. Like, you don't really figure out or get to know what Grimm does with the dragon. All you notice is that Isla turns around. She sees like this big wall of fire just coming towards her, and before she can grab the sword, Grimm uses his shadow powers to save her from these flames, and then the sword like portals away. You know, it disappears. And she's like, they portal back to his room, and she's like, well, why did you do that? You needed the sword. And he was like, well, I had to save you. And she was like, at the beginning you said you would get the sword even if I die. And he was like, well, obviously things change. And then they have like a huge love confession. Isla's like, I have to tell you a secret. And Grimm is like, I have to tell you a secret too. But she's like, my secret is I don't have powers. And he's like, I already knew that, kind of. Like, I guessed it very early on.
Yeah, you didn't do shit with your powers, so it was like,
and she's like,
probably
oh my
doesn't
god,
matter.
you did. And he was like, yeah, but I still love you. And then they make out, and then they like have a lot of sex. Oh, I forgot. Isla goes back. Oh, wait. They have sex. Isla goes back to the cave because there's a baby dragon there. Don't ask me how she knows it. She just does. And she makes Grimm adopt the baby dragon.
No, don't give the baby dragon to Grimm. He can't take care of shit.
And he's now his pet. And that's it.
I cannot believe how much mileage she got out of, hey, the sword's in a cave with a dragon.
I know. Trust me.
This is ridiculous. Like, if there was an editor, they'd been like, there is one scene with this fucking cave. We do not need more. It adds literally nothing.
Nothing, yeah. Because I was excited every single time one of the before chapters happened, because it was like finally some fucking content. But when from time and time again, it was like
the cave with the dragon.
They trained again for the cave dragon thing. I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh my god, why would you even bring this?
I know.
I can't believe she would give the baby dragon to Grimm. Like, worst person to give the baby dragon to. Like, give the baby dragon to someone who seems responsible, not this bitch.
Isla feels horrible because she had like plenty of sex dreams with Grimm. Oro reassures her like no, I love you. You're my favorite, perfect little girl. And she's like, all right, can you please leave? I want to train alone. She goes to the vault. She stabs her hand. And she uses the blood pain to finally open the vault. And now she's a happy camper. Next chapter is unlocked. Okay? The vault is unlocked. Oh, spoiler. The vault is unlocked. She goes into it. It's a pitch black room. She doesn't see anything. And it's completely empty. Like, she goes along the walls. There's nothing there. And she's like frustrated. She's like high on emotions. Like, all the power inside of her is still going because of the pain. And then she hears a voice behind her. It's like, hello, little bird. And it's Terra. Terra's there. Terra's been there all along. Well, actually, she's been a nightshade all along. And she's like, thank you for opening the vault for us. You know, please come with us again. You know, please come with me to Nightshade. And Isla's like, you fucking bitch. They have a fight. Terra is overpowering Isla, even though Isla is the ruler and has like the pain stuff, but Terra is like the fight IQ. She knows how to fight better than Isla, and then Isla kind of drains her power really fast. And then before Tara leaves, she's like, by the way, Isla, thanks for opening the portal. And then she whisks away to Nightshade. Boop.
I'm just... Tara being a Nightshade.
In Nightshade, not a Nightshade.
Oh, in Nightshade. Okay.
Yeah, she was chilling in Nightshade all along while the second book took place.
Okay. What? Why? Why are we bringing her back? What is she adding to this?
I don't know, trauma?
I guess, but also, like, let's be real. Like, I don't think anyone cares about Tara. Even people who liked Lightlark, I don't think, like, care. Like,
especially because the other one, what was her name? I don't remember. Iris or something? I don't...
Yeah, I don't remember.
I don't remember it.
Generic nature name.
Yeah. Especially because she was the one you would like as a reader, because she was the one who was nice to Isla, and Tara was like the drill sergeant.
Braiding flowers into her hair and stuff, and Tara was the asshole. Yeah. And then they betrayed Isla and killed her parents, or helped kill her parents, or whatever. So it's like, what? But we never really see them. We see them like once at the beginning, but it's not meaningful.
Oh my god, Ren, is Tara Dollar Store Maddock?
I guess a little bit, yeah.
Right? A little, like, there's a little bit of an overlap here.
Yeah. I didn't
How dare she?
But, like, insanely off-brand. They were like, this is barely recognizable.
But I feel like the relationship she wanted to build between Isla and Tara kind of imitates the one between Maddock and Jude. But, we want to go into another mind-boggling before chapter, because
let's go.
I think this video is going to go on for, like, only half an hour more. Like, let's going...
fucking go.
We're getting toward the end. So, Isla is just chilling in her home, and then she feels like a beckoning. Like something goes, come in here, little girlie. So she goes out, and she just finds the sword. It's just laying there. The sword just kind of called to her. She's just like, great. She walks up, she gets the sword. Beepity boop boop boop. She grabs it, and she's happy. Now Grim portals into her room, and she's like, you know what? Young man, you have some explaining to do. And he's like, why? And she's like, well, before we had our intimate little, thing, you also said you had a secret and you had to confess something, but you didn't tell me. We just, immediately fucked. And he's like, yeah, secret is... Years ago, Grimm sent out one of his generals to find this sword. And this general had the flair of not being affected by curses. And this general also created the charm that Grimm has to be able to walk outside during the night. And then one time that general just vanished, never came back. And then when Grimm realized that Isla has that flair as well, he realized she must be the daughter of this general. And Isla goes, that would mean I'm a nightshade. And he's like, yeah, obviously. And she's like, no way, I'm not a nightshade. And he's like, well, you are, and I kind of originally planned to use you to break the curse from the sword. Would mean that you'd either die or lose like a lot of your lifespan. But now I'm in love with you, and I don't want to do that anymore. That's why I also didn't want to go after the sword.
What the fuck? I love the implication that his general just completely deserted. He didn't like portal back and forth and was like, hey Grim, I'm in a relationship now, I'll do remote work, whatever. Like he just up and disappeared.
He does dynamic desk sharing.
That's very funny. But also, like, did we establish that flares were heritable?
No.
I don't think so.
We didn't.
It,
Flares
truly
were very vaguely described in the first book, even.
mind-boggling. What the fuck?
And the fun thing is, I'm not done yet.
Okay.
He says you're Nightshade, and also, the Nightshades are kind of important for the overall plot that happened years ago, because Lightlark is actually a miniature of a bigger country, of a bigger world that was created artificially by somebody to kind of mash all the different people that live in this big world into the smaller world. And on Lightlark, there's a portal that leads back to the original land, and you need a Nightshade to open up this portal, and I think also possibly the sword, but I don't remember correctly anymore. But yeah, get this, Lightlark is just a tiny little thing, a tiny yolky little thing belonging to an actually bigger thing.
What the fuck is the point of this?
This is the yolky thing, and this is the whitey thing, you know, and together they make an egg.
What does this add to the story?
It adds that Isla can now go back to the people and tell them there's a portal. And then Calder, bless his heart, he goes, well, but the portal's still closed, right? And Isla goes, no. And that's the end of this chapter. Yeah. Recover from that.
I don't understand why you would put this in this story.
Me neither.
How does this connect to anything else that's been going on?
Oh man.
What is happening?
Should I just continue? Because we're like approaching like the end. I think a lot of questions you have will kind of
just tell me about it.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. Isla goes back to the Oracle, because if you remember, Oracle said you have to come back alone, and the Oracle's like, all right. Now that you've remembered most of the things, I have to tell you that the future is divided, the fate is divided. Because right now it's 50-50. You will have to kill one of them, either Oro or Grimm.
Well, obviously.
You'll do one of those things, but you're not sure yet. And she's like, how am I not sure yet? I love Oro. In which world would I kill him instead of Grimm? And the Oracle's like, eh. And then the battle starts. The big battle, you know, the Nightshades come, the other people come, the Vinderland people come. There's like lots of fighting. The Drags come. Cleo actually pops up in the middle. And I'm too lazy to draw the whole battle, which is why it's just this. Cleo pops in the middle of it, and they have a little fight. And she's like, Isla's like, why are you fighting for this? Like, you know about the portal, right? Because Lightlark gets destroyed when they use the portal. That's why, you know, there's like, they have to stop them. That's an important fact I kind of left out. And Cleo's like, yeah, I want to go to the other world because it's far more advanced than ours is. And there they have the opportunity to make people come back whose souls have left. So she's talking about her child. She basically wants to resurrect her child. That's why Cleo is Team Nightshade. I
don't like this.
With some girl power between Anya and Isla, they managed to arrest Cleo. And then Isla is noticing like there's so much unnecessary dying and just pain over here. So she goes, all right, I'm trying to lure Grimm to me. I'm like trying to lay a trap to avoid all of this further bloodshed and to also take him away from the big battlefield, because maybe then the visions won't happen, right? Like, because there's lots of people that die in the visions, and if he's not there, then maybe it helps.
Okay.
Oh yeah, there's Grimm. And she lures him to her, and Oro's there as well, and then we have a before chapter, right? This is the constellation. Grimm knows it's a trap. Oro arrives as well, and boom, go into a before chapter. Grimm, like, confesses. It's not a confession anymore at this point, but he again like proclaims his undying love for Isla. He's like, we are infinite, I love you so much, but another scar opened up and I have to go and fight the Drex. And to avoid her following him, he takes her star stick away, and then he just portals away, basically. We go back to the present, right? The thing is, she's remembering all of these little things, like, while action is going on. Back in the present, day and night. Maybe now you notice my artistic a thing I did where I just changed the colors. You can even still see a little bit of gold on top of Grimm's head because I didn't manage to delete the crown perfectly. They have an epic fight. They're like flying around in the air. It's like the boss fight at the end of Legend of Aang, right? Like Avatar style. They fly through the air, and Oro gets hit by his own lightning because Grimm just portals Oro into the lightning itself. And he falls down, and Isla's like, no, you can't do this. And then she uses the connection, and Grimm goes, oh my god, our connection. And she's like, bam, uses it to take his power. And we get to a new before scene. Due to this connection that she and Grimm have, she manages to portal to him without the star stick. So there's the huge battlefield going on. We have Grimm fighting against the Drex, and there's like citizens and soldiers, and she like portals there on a cliff. And in that moment she decides, no, there's an emotion that's stronger than pain. It is love. And she takes and she takes the sword, sticks it into the ground, and like her power just explodes out of her, and she destroys everything in her path. Doesn't matter whether it's a child, a Drek, a soldier, she just kills everybody there except for Grimm, because that's the one person she wants to sacrifice. She wants to save. Yeah. And then she falls over, she's close to being dead. And Grimm, like, portals up there. He's like, no, Isla, please, don't die. And then we go to the present day again. I'm going to continue, okay? I see you have questions.
I'm like, what the fuck?
Oro is standing up with his sword, and he's like, I'm going to execute this bitch, right? And before he does that, Grimm goes, if I die, she dies. And I'd like to point something out here. It's still in place that if a ruler dies...
Yeah, I was about to say there's...
the other people die. So Oro was completely, like, okay with killing Grimm and just all of the Nightshades dying.
Oro was like, listen, genocide's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. Fuck them kids.
Honestly, it was like Lightlark Oro. I was like, oh, there's been this bitch who's like cruel and ruthless. But yeah, he wants to kill Grimm, and Grimm says, if I die, she dies. We go to a quick before. This was just one page, where Grimm just has Isla in her arms, and she wakes up, and he's like, oh my god, you just died in my arms, Isla. You were dead. That's the one page.
Just died in my arms tonight. I'm sorry.
We go back to the present, missing piece, and Oro's like, oh my god, you didn't do that, did you? You didn't do that, did you? And Grimsdale goes, I connected us so that she can stay alive. And Isla goes, well, still kill him. Completely disregarding the fact that if she dies through Grimm dying, then the wildlings and the starlings will also die. So she'll like triple genocide, basically, if that happens. And Ora says, no, I can't kill you. And then Isla goes, just think about what he's going to do to all of the children. And Grimm goes, excuse me? The fuck am I gonna do to, like, any children? And that's when Isla realizes the huge twist of this whole plot. The visions were true, but the visions weren't the future. It was like blips of what she did at the Scar thing. Like all of the visions she had of people dying and like flesh melting off, that's what she did with her shadow powers when she wanted to save Grimm from the Drex. So the irony of it all, that this whole war, this whole thing started because she...
I mean, he still wants to destroy Lightlark because he wants to go to the big boy world.
But they built him up as this evil person.
Yeah.
Because they thought he was going to do all that, but actually it was her. And she, like, goes full mental breakdown. She's, like, hyperventilating. She's like, oh my god, no, people go away from me. I'm gonna, like, explode and, like, my nightshade powers are gonna kill everyone. And Oro's holding her hands. He's like, no, like, nothing's gonna happen. She's, like, freaking out. And then Grimm goes, brace yourself. Let go of my wife.
No.
Yes.
No.
We come to the next chapter called Bound. And that's when Isla has, like, it's not a before chapter, but she's just realizing, remembering now, they got married. They were living together for a couple of days, weeks, months, I don't know. She was begging him to erase her memories of what she did to these poor children because she just can't live with the destruction that she, like,
That's
caused.
not what he said last book at all.
And before, like, they go to the centennial before it starts, he wants to gift her a necklace because that's like the equivalent to an engagement ring or like a ring of marriage. And she's like turning around, taking her hair away and waiting for him to put the necklace on, but instead he erases her memories and gives her star stick back, and then like kind of portals her away to her old room. And that's the end of the chapter Bound.
Quick question.
Mm-hmm.
During all those flashbacks, where the fuck is Celeste / Aurora? Because she was like, Grimm erased Isla's memories of him, but she still had a year-long friendship with Celeste.
She, it's mentioned that at some point Celeste gets a little bit pissed off because Isla doesn't have as much time for her anymore because she constantly hangs out with Grimm, and Isla kind of has to make something up why she can't hang out with Celeste. But I guess he's been very selective with the thoughts that he kind of, or the memories that he erased. So he was like, I'm gonna erase everything about us and you can stay with Celeste. But it also makes it weird with like the skin gloves. But yeah, he erased some specific memories. And in the next and last chapter, Isla has to make the decision, you know, the big decision. She asks Grimm, will you stop this war? Will you stop going through the portal? Because his idea was to restore her soul in the other world so that she's not tied to him anymore and she like has her own life and she doesn't die if he dies. She's
why
like,
the fuck would he want that? What about his personality has like...
Because he loves her. Anyways.
Yeah, but... Okay.
He asks, will you stop all of this if I go with you? He says yes. Oro immediately goes no. And she like looks at Oro. She grabs his hand. She's like, you know, I have to do this. I have to stop this war. I'm sorry. I love you. And she lets go of his hand. But I also love Grimm. And then she goes...
But I thought the portal destroys Lightlark if they use it.
Well, now they don't have to... Like, he stops, you know, because Isla goes with him. I guess.
But I thought that was just a side effect of the portal itself.
If they use the portal, then it destroys Lightlark.
Yeah.
But now they go back to Nightshade, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to say as well is Isla looks at Lynx and Grimm goes, oh yeah, we can take the cat with us. And then they leave.
I forgot the cat existed. I was like,
they leave, they go to Nightshade. And that's the end. We made it. We made it through the presentation.
What the fuck was that? Question mark.
I'm delighting in the fact that you think this is so interesting.
I mean, first off, I am so glad I didn't read this, because, like, quite frankly, everything about this I hate, but also...
Everything!
I mean, if I'd had to read it, I would have been like, oh, this is stupid, but, like, hearing about it is funny, you know? It's like, if I had to spend, like, 6 to 7 hours reading this shit, I'd feel very differently about it.
Yeah.
I mean... Obviously,
she was
Alex Aster was not going to deliver a sequel that, like, builds on the first one or makes logical sense. I mean, the second part of Lightlark 1 doesn't really fit with the setup of Lightlark 1. Like, it's not... There isn't cohesion in the first book. The second book isn't gonna be better.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of confused by the choices. Like, why? Right? Like, the retconning of why he took her memories is stupid. 'Cause, like, I mean, if she asked for it, like, what does it add to the story that she has committed an insane atrocity but forgot about it? An atrocity that no one knows about and no one really talks about either.
It's not something that haunts her in a way that people, like, constantly point it out, right?
It doesn't inform her character at all, and it also doesn't really inform how Grimm interacts with her. He doesn't treat her like somebody who he knows will, like, tear apart the world for him, but, like, he's just weirdly horny for the first... Like, it doesn't fit at all, but also, if you were going to give us a romantic backstory for those two, why do it like this?
Yeah.
Right? Like...
I agree. It's so I obviously also have a lot of thoughts on this book in total.
Yeah.
And a lot of things that while I was, like, talking to you, I couldn't really give my immediate thoughts because it would give away the ending of the book. But a lot of things are clearly set up to be for the next one. The whole Nexus thing, the thing with the child, the weird feather, the portal, the alluding to a bigger island or anything like that.
So dumb.
But she does it in a way that just leaves you so fucking confused, and she goes back on her own word a lot.
Yeah, it's also like the story's like, oh no, Grimm's not going to do those terrible things to people. He was still willing to destroy the island and everyone who lived on it just for, like, something that he doesn't even really need. Like,
just to save Isla in his case,
Like, not to be rude, but, like, both Isla and Grimm are some of the last people anyone would kill because, again, this would include genocide, which most people would not be interested in.
Yeah.
Like, she's not in direct danger because Grimm is incredibly powerful. He's not gonna get killed, like, right? Like, it's not...
Yeah.
Why do this? Like...
I think he
also,
wants
like,
to do it because he loves her so much.
If he's a possessive weirdo, like, wouldn't he get off on the idea that, like, literally she won't live without him?
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't give off the vibes of, oh no, I'd sacrifice myself for you. He's like, no, I'd kill everyone else for you, but, like you still have to choose me, like, right? It's like, in
the beginning of the book, it feels like, this is all very, like, Grimm authentic, the way he behaves and the way he treats Isla, and then throughout of it you're constantly questioning yourself, like, how does this tie in together with the guy from the present who's portrayed as this obsessive ex-stalker boyfriend who has an anger problem, you know, kind of like constantly like a stalker basically. Domestic abuse kind of feels like the way they portray him, and in the before scenes he's starting to go all spicy at first and then all lovey-dovey. Like there's scenes in there in the end where he smiles at her and laughs at her and he's like, you're my the bane of my existence is actually something he says.
Oh no.
And you're constantly asking yourself, how does it tie together to what happens in between?
Yeah.
And then him going, oh well, I want to retrieve your soul, or I want to be able to resurrect you properly, and that's why I have to go through Lightlark. But that's such a weird thing, it's such a weird motivation.
It's it's such a strange thing to invent for your second book.
Mm-hmm.
When nothing like it has happened, and like, does it really add anything? Not really. And also, if she died, wouldn't like every wildling be dead? Did they all die for like a second and then come back?
Maybe she didn't.
Resurrected her?
Maybe she didn't completely die because maybe it's like the 5-second rule, a ruler has to be dead for like longer than, but or maybe also, they don't. I don't know. Maybe she wasn't brain dead yet.
I also can't believe girl, I have face sand at home. If I were interested in the whole resurrection and gaining amazing powers,
oh my god, right!
I could just read the last part of ACOTAR and the beginning of Akamath again. I don't need to read Nightbane for this.
And also the end of Ako War, when Rysand gets resurrected again because Feyre kind of connects herself to him. So it's there's a lot of themes we already know.
What are we doing here? I also at some point you were like, oh, the whole thing with the scar and the drips coming out of it is very darkling. I was about to say the whole appearing as a vision and the protagonist thinks she's going insane is also very darkling coded.
Yeah. She definitely watched the Shadow and Bone Netflix series while writing this. She has the hots for Ben Barnes.
I do think in one of the Lightlark reviews that I watched that somebody mentioned that Alex Aster already liked the Grisha trilogy before, so the books are relatively older and I don't know. I think Lightlark came out before the first season came out?
Yeah, I think so.
And he was Rysand coded, but he was also darkly coded from the beginning. So I feel
it's obvious as well. If there's something that inspires you and that you are extremely passionate about, you are gonna take that over into your art. It's just a bit too copy my homework but change it a little bit.
I mean, the problem is really not that it's the same trope and the same kind of thing. The problem is that it doesn't really fit into the story. You could do a similar story to ACOTAR and start diverging at some point that's important to you, but if you change the characters and stuff around, it's people will be oh, obviously this reminds me of ACOTAR, but also if the things that happen inside the story make sense for the story, you're well, yeah, sure, it reminds me of that, but it's also its own thing that works. Where it's I think they've read ACOTAR, it's too many similarities, but also I could see someone coming up with this without having to read it at all.
Yeah.
Whereas here it's a lot of these feel no way she didn't take this from somewhere.
Yeah.
Because it feels out of place. I mean, everything feels out of place. The
That's
random animal companion, that felt fucking out of place too.
A lot of things feel out of place. That's why I said it's like a string of pearls, and these pearls are in no way connected to each other in a theme or color or tone or anything. And she's some of them are, but they're 5 pearls away from the other pearl. So she just adds them at random into the whole bigger picture of her story, and that kind of annoys me to a certain extent. I did have fun reading the book at the ending because I was like, things are going batshit crazy and I'm here for it. And I wouldn't say I would read it again. I wouldn't read Lightlark again as well. That was like a common ground for us. But I certainly had an enjoyable time reading it in terms of it didn't enrage me as much as From Blood and Ash, kind of. Like, it was still fun, but I genuinely have a problem with Alex Aster's style of writing because it just feels so flat.
Yeah, I think it's like Lightlark is a lot like sillier, and because it is so flat, it's not as like annoying as From Ash and Blood, because From Ash and Blood is more consistent, which makes it so much more annoying when it like fumbles the ball so badly, when like the obvious right solution is there, but like Jennifer Armentrout was like, you know what, I'm not gonna do that. Fuck that. I'm not gonna do something reasonable. I'm gonna do something stupid with it. Yeah. Like, it's also just like, I don't know, Lightlark feels so empty. Like, I can't speak of Nightbane, but like Lightlark feels so creatively devoid. It's like, you can tell she liked some stuff, but she didn't actually ever think about why she liked it and what parts of it appealed to her. Yeah. She just was like, oh yeah, I like those things. Let's just throw them in there. And it's...
I feel like Nightbane, what I said previously as well, Nightbane had the happy coincidence that she already got to spend time with her characters, and we as a reader also got to already spend time with her characters, so it wasn't like she had these random people with names to work with, but we had Isla. Isla's already an established character. We have Grimm, Oro. Well, Grimm and Oro aren't really that established, but especially Oro. But we know we have Isla, we have Grimm, and we know some of this world, and there's something to go off from. And because she also decided she was going to go a little bit darker, with Isla constantly being sad and depressed and like questioning herself and stuff. I feel like you could have done a lot with the all idea of Nightbane in terms of the story and the themes. I just honestly feel like she's... I'm saying this not having any skill myself, but I honestly think she's still lacking the skill to execute this properly. And if she would marinate and kind of incubate a little bit more as a writer, feel like in 3, 4, 5 years, a couple of books in between that she doesn't publish because they're not hatched yet, she would be more able to execute that idea she had in her head.
I think I've said this about Lightlark too, and obviously I didn't read Nightbane, but like, just from the condensed explanation, again, it sounds like this desperately needed a developmental editor, but it didn't get one. Yeah. And it's so strange to me to not get one. I know, if you want to capitalize off of the popularity of Lightlark, it makes sense to put Nightbane out quickly, but given the way the story is written, it does not leave me with the impression that it would take long to write. Yeah. The prose is unpolished. The plot is barely hanging on. The world building is nonsensical and random. It's, quite frankly, like, I could have written a Nightbane as like a NaNoWriMo project. You just sit down, you write a bunch, you don't care that much, you just write and write and write, and if it... Definitely. And like, you just kind of shove it together at the end. I mean, it is more words than the 50k NaNoWriMo standard, but like, quite frankly, if I wrote something like this, I feel like I could probably get way more words. Especially just from the repetition of, hey, this just happened, let's tell my friends about it in the next chapter. It feels so obviously like a barely edited first draft that it hurts that this was sold. And sold well, probably. Not as well as Lightlark, because quite frankly, sequels never sell as well as the first book, and Lightlark was like hugely hyped. It was like, I think, one of the first like TikTok sensation books.
It was really going
people
through.
Are a lot more tepid about those because a lot more of them have been coming out where it's like, oh, this is a big TikTok book written by a TikTok, promoted on TikTok, whatever. And like Lightlark was
good.
bad. If it's like the same same thing has happened with Fourth Wing, where like the first book's already not good, but a lot of people were like, well, I'm here for the romantasy aspect, I'm here for the character dynamic, and look, it even has dragons. But the second book has been like so much worse, like just abysmal in quality from the reviews I've seen. It tanked, like the quality has tanked
with
hard.
Iron. Continue your thing.
Just, I feel like a lot of people are like gaining the awareness that like a first book that's kind of nonsense from TikTok hype, like that's fine to read, but the second book and the sequels are not gonna do it for you. They might get the next TikTok hype book, but they'll probably be a lot less likely to get the sequel.
With Iron Flame specifically, so I mean, a lot of the authors, or a lot of authors spoke up on the current issue in Israel and Palestine. And while there's the authors that don't say anything, or there's the authors that are like, you know, killing people on all sides is bad, Rebecca Yarros, I think that's her name, so the author went out of her way to side with the oppressor in this situation. So a lot of people actually also boycotted Iron Flame. So people, even people who would have bought it because they were interested in how it goes, have said that they will not, just for this very, or not just for this very reason. But like, this is
a reation why, they can't do it. Which.
So she fumbled even more. She fumbled greatly by not...
I don't really, like...
Yeah.
I feel like I'm not looking to these people for my political takes.
I feel like there's this thing about if you have a bigger platform, it's your responsibility to kind of use that big platform. And
but also
the most authors that got flag were the ones who wrote in their books about oppression, about people speaking up, about war, you know, which is something that a lot of romantasy young adult books have. And especially those authors should kind of ideally be able to recognize these sort of patterns in real life as well. And it got very obvious which authors kind of... You know, so there was some trouble there, but just to say this, Iron Flame tanked because of that.
Yeah, harder. But like, there's no way it would have sold as well as Fourth Wing.
Anyways,
Like, and like after this, of course, the like following books
it got
worse. But I wouldn't be surprised if Nightbane still sells well enough,
a decent amount, but
I have severe doubts about any sequel selling particularly well.
Yeah.
It'll still sell better than most self-published books, obviously, if you have any kind of audience, of course. And, 12-year-olds will read whatever. But I feel like you can get this quality for free online. You don't need to pay money for this kind of writing.
I mean, you have to think about it. Even in the comparatively small town that I live in currently, when I went to pick up a book at the local German biggest bookseller, I saw one physical copy of Nightbane sitting in the shelf behind the counter waiting to be picked up. So even here in bumfuck nowhere, somebody ordered the physical copy of Nightbane.
I feel like it is a lot more defensible for English second language speakers to read it than for people who are native English speakers, just because if it's your second language,
you're not really picking up that much.
The prose quality is a lot less important to you, and you're already doing a lot more work for it to be, you know. So I am more willing to forgive that. I would not be willing to forgive them for buying it in German, though. That would be bad.
That's what I think as well. A lot of times when people criticize these books, like I'm getting to a point where I can point out some bad language, but I think that's another flavor as well. That's kind of good on us being not mother tongue speakers for English, because we can just ignore a lot of the horrible ones.
I think that's also one reason why some of the like TikTok hype books sell so well comparatively to some like traditional publishing, because like if you can't speak English like that well, but you can read it adequately enough, and you hear about it, you're like, of course the market is much bigger because these people will be on TikTok, but they will not be browsing the Simon and Schuster new releases for 2023. You know,
that's true.
And they have low standards because a lot of them are teenagers and don't speak English that well, so they're not that bothered when it's nonsense. They're
Yeah, I agree. Well, we're nearly talking for 4 hours, so I think it would be good to wrap this up.
This was fucking crazy. I cannot believe this. Thank you for doing this. I think the visual aids were so fucking good. I feel like this is like...
Even though I missed my cues a couple of times, but that's fine.
The Nightbane experience with like the image, it's so good. Like this is way better than reading the book. I love this. This was really good.
I have to say, I have to say, I am very happy that you enjoyed this, because I would have been so sad. I think in total, reading this book took me a while, and then putting this slideshow into work, I think it took me like 5 or 6 hours, because I had to go through all of my notes, I had to write them down, I had to draw the things. So I'm happy about that. I will give Nightbane, I think, and now here I'm struggling a bit, okay? Help me out. As a work of literature, 1 star.
Yeah.
Factoring my enjoyment, I honestly would go 3 stars, but that's too high. So do I go 2 stars or 1.5?
I mean, you can always like, if you feel like one is more important than the other, you can always be like, okay, I have a 5-star scale for the one thing and for the other, and you can be like, okay, but this scale weighs twice as heavy, and then you divide it by 3 or whatever, like you add it up and then divide it by 3. So, I don't know if that's like.
Then I'll go with a 2. I won't go with a 1.5. I'll go with a 2. It was enjoyable enough, and I personally had a fun experience, and I will read the 3rd one. I mean, honestly, I have to find out. I feel like it's a Sarah J. Maas situation. You need to
know what happens.
Yeah. It's like I watched the last seasons of Glee only because I needed to know what happens with the characters in Glee. Like, I wasn't that interested to find out what Mr. Schuster was doing.
But yeah, you need to know.
The rating is 2 stars. Solid.
Fair enough. 2 stars.
But
this was fun, dude. If you read the 3rd one, we should repeat this experience. I would love to hear about the 3rd one in this format again. Fucking phenomenal. I love this. This was really fun.
As a little treat for people who are still watching, or people who skipped through. I'll do that too. I want to read the Crescent City 3, and I was also planning on doing a little presentation for you like this. Amazing. It will be shorter, or you will have to make 2 videos out of it, because I can already see the insanity that is ensuing. But there's more coming, because I had a lot of fun doing that.
That's so good. Because, like, if you do that, I will have to actually do homework and find out what the fuck is going on in Crescent City. Because so far I just knew, like, disparate facts. I'll need to find some recap and watch that and be like, okay,
I'll send you some.
I know who's who. Yeah.
I'll send you some that are good. That being said, thank you so much for sticking until the end. And I say let's say bye.
Yeah. Until next time. Bye.
Bye.